by the way, Kevin du-twa is world famous as Go Live Facebook buddy. So I'm just gonna sit right here. Pizza is here, you guys. It's warm. If you are hungry, it's available to you. Feel free to grab it. I'm going to start the introduction off again. I think we're live. If anybody want to check that for me, that'd be great. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So we're going to, hi, Brian. How are you? Good to see you, man. So Tony and I have known each other since Tony Fletcher and I introduced each other, more than a year ago. And Tony Diaz comes to us with a amazing resume. I want to talk to you guys about a guy who has flipped more than 1,000 homes, has been dominating the Southern California market as a flipper. He is competing with the iBuyers right now because the iBuyers are taking the cream off the top, and he's dealing with the wholesale level. He also wholesales 10, 15 properties a month, and then he also runs a real estate team. Hi, buddy. How are you? Good to see you. So we didn't get your expectations. We're going to come back to that. But the goal of this whole process is to take the conversation to the next level and to find the gaps between where iBuyers fit in versus the retail still fits in versus what are the skills are that are necessary. Because you're sitting in the living rooms and dens of America here in Southern California, and you're asking for the deal, right? And you have a team. Tell us a little bit about your background, your team, that kind of thing.
Sure. So 25 years. My parents were in the real estate business, mortgage real estate.
And we're going to speak to the microphone back there. Yeah.
So I got into it fairly young, about 15, 16. And then got into real estate at 18, got my license a week after. Bought my first house at 18 and just over time started growing. Have a great support team from a family side. And then I've always been just ambitious.
And a new baby.
And then that's new baby, yeah. So, but over time, we just really got into the what you call beginner flipping, and then we just started getting into nonprofit work and build development, new construction. So we always take in our experience and try to push it to the next level. And now we've gotten to the point to where our experience has given us opportunity to be able to compete with the big guys and actually work with the big guys.
Yeah.
We have a program called iBuyer Connect. Who knows Cloud CMA? So pretty much
that's part of your MLS duty, by the way.
Yep. So when you go through your CMA and there's a window that pops up that says, "Are you interested in seeing a cash offer?" That goes directly to us. So we're behind the iBuyer Connect. So it's a program we're working in cloud. It's been working out really great, and it really touches on the opportunity from an agent's perspective. So this is exactly what we're trying to do, educate the agents on how to leverage us and ultimately give you a little bit of math behind it so you understand just not the value, but the percentages which are to your favor, and I'll get into that.
And you've written iBuyer offers on my list, and we have yet to come together on a deal. But we will do that hopefully in the near future. So he writes, tell us how many offers a week you write.
About close to 500 a month.
500 offers a month he writes as an iBuyer, and really as a wholesaler, right? So just for clarity, let's talk about what all these terms mean, just to break them down, right? So he just said iBuyer Connect. So let's just talk about the big beasts that are out there, right? We've got Zillow. Zillow now, if you look at a lot of your listings, there's a button on Zillow that didn't exist a week ago, and it says Call Now. Okay, when you click on the Call Now button, Ron, I know you're a Zillow guy, and that Call Now button is now being added. Thankfully, Keller Williams has a contract in place that's protecting some of the listings from that, but ultimately, all leads from Zillow will go back to Zillow. Then they'll decide who is the most worthy agent in the area, and then they will charge a percentage through what they call Zillow Flex to send that lead back to the agent at a percentage. On average, it's going to be a higher than a normal referral fee that you're going to pay, but you will not have to pay the advertising because they're going to start making it up in the other aspects. So this is all coming. Zillow Flex, Zillow offers, Redfin Direct, and then we also have OfferPad, and we have Open Door, and we have several others coming in the marketplace.
The new one is Sunday.
Yeah. So tell us how you're dealing with that and how iBuyer Connect fits into the whole grand scheme thing. Because you said, hey, I'm a smaller guy, right. We've got these bigger guys. But by the way, $15 billion of VC capital has come into the market in the last 2 years, specifically to disrupt sellers. That's what we're talking about today. How do we deal with the disruption of $15 billion? And that's coming after your sphere of influence. You guys just said there was an 80-20 rule that we found out in the interviews with people before we got started. 80% of your sellers came from your sphere of influence. Well, guess who else is the sphere of influence of those people? Zillow, Redfin, all these other people are the same sphere of influence. They're working your sphere. Anybody here other than myself lose a deal to an iBuyer or to another strategy that was part of your sphere of influence? My aunt got a cash offer on a property and may very seriously consider taking that cash offer before I had the chance to work with it. So it's out there, and those are the things that are affecting us. So tell us about iBuy Connect and how does it tie into the whole?
So for us, the reason we started working with Cloud is because they wanted to bring value to their agents.
Yeah.
The way we see it is there's a way for you to have more tools in your arsenal, right? To be able to walk into a homeowner and make a determination of what's their best options, right? We call ourselves situational buyers, right? We don't come into a home where it's in great condition because we're not the best option for them. We do get those requests and we educate the agent on what it is that we're looking for and we build a relationship.
I'm going to time you out because you guys need to take the words that he's using and apply them. You said you want to have a better listing presentation, right? What did he say? Situational. Write that down, and I want you to incorporate that into your dialogues because situational is a key word that iBuyers are using that you need to incorporate into your conversations in your living rooms because situational is what he's talking about here. And what that also does, it allows you to use the tool that he has behind files he made. So keep going. Sorry.
So situation means divorce, they don't have the ability to fix the property. Everybody knows what a flip home looks like and what it doesn't look like, right? So for us, getting the agents to understand that difference and understand that the seller's situation, it's not about what we want or what the offer looks like, it's how that fits in their situation, right? Sometimes we get people that we walk in and I won't get into the details, but it was a tough situation for the person who inherited the home. And she said, I want nothing to do with it. Tell me whatever price, I'm done, right? That's an extreme situation. And then the other ones, which are the more typical, are the people that are shopping, right? What does shopping look to us? Convenience versus price.
Time out. Another word, you got to write this down. It's called convenience fees. He said it. All the iBuyers are using the terminology convenience fees, not commission. So you're going to need to incorporate in your new listing presentation, your new conversations, it's about convenience fees. Our commission is really just an inconvenience. And so what the iBuyers have done is they've rewritten the book and they've called them convenience fees. And that's part of your discount code. So keep going.
Right. So, and it's interesting and important to understand the buyers that they're out there. For example, your typical iBuyer, your big guys, they're buying what we call pink carpets, right? They're gonna walk in, it's under 20,000 typically, depending on the iBuyer. But they want to be able to come in, buy the property, put it back on the market, and their margins are fairly light. If you really look at their bottom line, they're making money on the escrow, the title, the mortgages, right? This is just a way for them to create more business for them. I've been talking to Redfin. I was just on the phone with one of the founders for OfferPad and really understanding their model. So there's a lot of opportunities if you better understand the situation of the seller, and then you can sit there and say, this is your better buyer, this is why, and have the information behind it. It does take understanding the model. So in general, the big guys are gonna go under 20 rehab, they wanna get in and get out as fast as possible, and they will pay really good money that I can't pay. There's just no way.
Right, so stop there. I want to get some feedback, first of all, from you guys. Tony is in this game writing 500 offers a month, okay? So this is your opportunity. Now, which 500 sellers is he talking to? Is he talking to biggers? Is he talking to your sellers? Is he talking to your sellers? The answer is yes. He's talking to all of your sellers, right? And so the point is why are those sellers talking to him first? Because you have to out-touch him. You have to out-touch Zillow. You have to out-touch Redfin. They have to know that you have this option available for you as well. That's the whole point. He's actually working in your sphere right now, whether you know it or not. Now, by the way, he's protecting the agent's relationship. Why don't you talk about that? Because the whole Cloud CMA thing is a beautiful model for you. But at the same time, as he's going outside and finding other deals, he's also protecting the agent's relationship because he works for the MLS a lot. So he's actually coming to you with your poorly marketed property and telling you how to get it sold for more money. So just know that there's not really a lot of friction with Tony because Tony is actually honoring the agent's relationship, and so are all iBuyers, by the way. They're honoring the agent's relationship. The challenge is you're just not hearing from your seller because they just sold their house, and you could have sold it, but you didn't know because you didn't offer what he has to offer. That's why when we bring the Cloud CMA offer in, we can now be there and say, here's a price, right? And then the other thing that he said is the other iBuyers, they're paying more money. Now I want you to write this down. This is an Orange County class, right? So I went on to a couple of the iBuyer websites, and I started testing some of my listings on there. I'd like to receive offers on some of our listings. The moment you got a listing contract, what can you do?
Get an
You
offer.
shop it. Yeah, you get an offer, right? And so I did. I started putting in addresses, right? And in general, all the iBuyers in this space, they're interested between 200,000 to 800,000. That's what they want. 200 to 800,000. They want main apartment. You're looking situationally at other options, things that might have more profit, things that might have more flexibility, things that don't fit that model. What we call that is the bell curve. So basically, what you have is you have Wall Street investing in Main Street through the bell curve. They're only looking for the simpler deals. So what you have to figure out is if you don't have one of those, how do you find them an offer anyway? That's another conversation. So keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt.
So specific to the type of stuff we buy, it's the typical you walk in and it's a mess. You can't finance it. The sellers cannot improve the home, and I'm sure you guys can kind of walk in and the one that smells a little funny. That's what we're buying. So for us, how we make money is we bring value. We are able to actually fix the property for cheaper than a homeowner could. So all investors are really glorified contractors, right?
Yeah.
Our job is to fix it as inexpensive as possible and make a difference between the future value versus what the typical cost of improvements would be. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
And I want to go back and just so you guys know how to access Cloud CMA through your MLS, right? Yeah. So when you access Cloud CMA, you're going to get a pop-up that says, would you like a cash offer on the home? That's his software that's behind there, and that's his people that are behind there. You have a team of a large team, I don't know, 10 people that are constantly writing these offers. That's how those 500 offers a month get generated. So what you're going to find is that he's not going to solicit that seller. He's simply going to communicate through you, the agent, what your offer would be.
And how do we know that? What agreement is in place to protect that?
So there's a few things. That's the best question. And one of our challenges getting out to the agent. So I'm a broker myself as well. Looking at it from the Cloud CMA perspective, right? If we go out there and if we bypass you guys are going to complain. And the program goes away, right? Just call it for the same self-survival, obviously ethical, and a bunch of other things. I'm in contract with them as well. The way that this works is you're going to call, you're going to click the information, I get your data, I'm communicating with you, and in most cases, 95% of the time, the agents don't have a listing. So what our job is to provide you data that's going to help that homeowner make a value add determination, whether if it's better for them to sell as is or to move forward. So in most cases, I'm going to be able to give you that data to say, listen, I'm not your best buyer. They're looking for a cash offer out of, call it convenience or because it sounds good to them, but the fact this is the numbers, this is my number, this is what you can expect from the bigger guys. Or go ahead and invest 20 grand and paint it if they can't just go to market. The best part of it is I'm going to back that up with data. And that data comes from me, not from you. So it's a lot easier for you to go to that homeowner and say, listen, here's the last, this are the investors, this is what they offer, and this is why. So the why part is the most important thing. Why means here's the comps of the other homes that have been flipped. This is what they invested into them, and that's what they paid. So that's public record for you guys. Whenever you see a comp, go to Zillow really quick, or you go through tax records, and you're going to see what that investor paid. So that information is super important because now the homeowner is not taking your opinion; they're taking data and making those determinations.
So time out right there. Another big. So first of all, I want to make sure you understand energetically, Tony is on our side because Tony is actually working directly with Cloud CMA and he's out there doing it. He also has another part of his team that goes out and finds deals on their own. Like I said, he's working in your sphere now. Just like Zillow is, he just happens to be willing to talk about it here, right? And the thing that I will tell you is that that's an uncomfortable conversation for us traditional mindset real estate agents, but you got to throw that crap out. And I'm not picking on you, I'm just saying in general, we have to throw all old thinking out the door because new money, 15 billion in the last 2 years has come into this market. And they are disrupting the mindset of our sellers or who I said, remember I said earlier how to find more sellers? Just talk to homeowners, right? So all homeowners are being affected by this. And if you look at the statistics of Zillow's traffic, Zillow has 190 million unique visitors per month. There's only 150 million households. How's that happening? Well, the fact is there's a lot of people looking at their value on Zillow. That's not a good or a bad thing. It just happens to be that they dominate not only the ownership traffic, they are now moving into the non-ownership traffic. They have Zillow property management. They have Zillow rentals. They have all the other so their job that they're doing is taking over the entire real estate community. They recently did a survey, and thank you, NAR, by the way, go ahead and complain to NAR if you'd like to, but NAR, our name, realtor, is less important to a consumer than Zillow. It's been proven by Zillow. Zillow's name is more recognizable than the word realtor. So that's a pretty interesting
Okay,
conversation.
so here's another issue. So I already used the Cloud CMA, your service.
Yeah.
And the first thing the guy asked me is, what does the property look like? Well, I'm going on a listing appointment, so I don't know yet. So how am I supposed to get an answer from you, make a presentation, only to find out that that number has changed once I look at the property?
So I think one of the points that is really important to understand is whether if it's a local investor you're working with, ourselves, or the big guys, the fact is a data-driven purchase, right? There's a box. If it fits in the box, they're going to buy it. If you look at from a Zillow or anybody's perspective, they're going to give you a range, and that range is designed to get you in the door. The fact is that I can sell it to you, or I can give you the facts. The facts is that we will only buy a property based on two factors: the purchase price and the repairs, right? So once I know those two things, then it's easier for me to make an investment. If you're telling me, hey, how much can you offer? I'm gonna give you an offer that is gonna give you a chance to get in that table for you to make a negotiation. When I come back to you, it's gonna be data-based. If I come back and say, my 400 didn't work, but here's 350, and you say, why? I say, well, just because it sounds better. I'm not gonna help you right now. I'm not giving you the tools to make a decision. If I go back and say, because of this 10 factors, and this is the cost, and by the way, expect that from everybody else because this is the math. Purchase price plus repairs, this is our average sales price, which we all essentially are in the same box. So you start understanding the data from not just us, from a general perspective, and you're able to present that information where it's not you telling the homeowner, is that data speaking on your behalf. Does that make sense?
Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, and can you talk a little bit about from when you get that to if you're writing an offer, how quick, like, I know we were looking the other day, and you actually got the photos before on the MLS before I got them.
Yeah, so we spend a few bucks putting together a really neat system, and it's essentially using the data to process a lot of information, right? So instead of going to the MLS and looking for homes, the system crunches all the data. We built our own logic into the algorithms to get information out, and then we use the machine to essentially give us notices. What Tony's talking about is the property hits the MLS, and then it gives you a certain amount of time to load the photos. We get it the second you enter the button. So we got a little bit of an unfair advantage. So there's a little bit of.
Well, he wrote an offer on one of my listings within about 90 minutes of me having it live. And that wasn't even him knowing our personal relationship. That was his system doing the job and his team behind the system. And I will tell you guys, the other thing that you're going to find about the big money that's coming into this is that they know systems. And if you are not using an effective follow-up system, if you're not out following up Zillow and Tony, you're going to be in a situation where those sellers will permanently evaporate. It's a big challenge. It's a big challenge because you have to operate like a big business. You have to think like a big business, and it's no longer a mom and pop business. This is a Wall Street business that you happen to be in, and you may be the remnants of a former industry, just so you understand. Or you may be able to rally and create something out of it if you choose.
Yeah, and I don't want to step in it here, but also we talked a little bit about the last time you were doing a presentation where you actually track the agents. So you know, you can work with Tony, you can work with whoever it is, but this guy, he's a schmuck. You're not gonna, but you do know, right? You know who's buying, who pays the most,
Right.
which agents, right?
Exactly.
You know which agents are taking your offer and double ending it and give it to somebody for less than you were gonna offer them.
Yeah, so I think the most important thing to understand is that there's a data-driven movement for us, right? So the big guys have a lot of money, right? And data scientists taking information from the top down. We're grassroots, right? So our information is from experience up. So it's an interesting gap between the amount of money and our experience, right? Not that they don't have the experience or they're hiring the right people. It's, for me, they're coming at it from we got enough money, we can go out and push the market. Where I can't buy what they're buying, I just can't afford to, right? I'll give you some interesting statistics, and to your point, 98% of the people that request offers, we don't buy those homes, right? So if you think about it, we're living on your same world statistics. You got to make the calls, you got to go follow through, and the data and the processes and everything. So take that in consideration when you're calling us or any iBuyer. You got to use that data to your advantage, right? Take it, find out their situation, and if it fits them, educate them that way. Don't look at it as why is this iBuyer buying the property? Use that data to your advantage, knowing that 98% of the time it's not going to sell to them. You got a really good chance to say, does this work? No. Does that work? No. This is your best option, and it's you guys.
So let's
leverage
take, yeah, I mean, and I will tell you, and again, thank you, and I know you have a limited amount of time, so I'd like to make sure, I told them 30, 40 minutes, we're at the 40 mark right now, so I'd like to continue to take some more questions. I've got some other ones for you myself, but for you guys that are working with this situation, and your questions have been a big help to all of us, so thank you. What other questions do you have for Tony as it relates to how he shows up and disintermediates you from the process? Because that's what he does. He takes the deal away from you if he can. Not to say, remember, through the Cloud CMA relationship, we're all good. Everything is chill. There's not a problem there. But the fact is, he's also marketing around you, just like all the other folks. You should be asking him, what is he doing to get the listing that you're not getting? That's what I'd be asking. Go ahead.
Well, the other question is that, are you on the purchase contract that you're sending out or that's being sent out, do they have an and/or assignment?
No, so I'm going to give you guys a really interesting perspective, and this is very important. And we're actually putting together an education piece for agents. Agents don't like wholesalers, right? Agents, if you look at what a
Wait a minute, hold on. Let's take it. Who here loves wholesalers?
Some agents are wholesalers.
Correct.
Well, here's the thing. I love you. I love wholesalers because what they're doing is they're disrupting our way of thinking, and I am always the guy that's looking to figure out what the next level thinking is. Wholesalers they've served a very big need in our marketplace for years. When I was back when I started with Keller Williams 10 years ago in 2009, we were wholesaling like crazy, but we were doing that through the bank REO world, right? And the challenge with the bank REO world is never come back. Because what's going to happen is as banks bring failed assets, anything that's not performing or less than performing, they have all these new platforms that they can choose from. So you're never getting a bank assignment again, just so you know, in case that was a business that you were in before. And the reality is that market is going to go away, which also brings stability to the real estate. And if you look at Southern California real estate, the other thing that it does to have wholesalers involved is it's shaping the space between wholesale and retail, and it's crunching it, which is causing him to have to find new ways to operate, which is also causing us to find new ways to operate. So I love wholesalers because they just disrupt everything. So anyway, keep going.
So
Just quickly, if you don't mind. We get our listing, we accept your offer. Let's just say it's a good offer. And you go and start the transaction. At what point do you actually commit yourself? Because as a listing agent, my biggest fear is I'm going to put this buyer in the deal. It's not going to perform. So we do this financing check, cross check, and inspection, and all of this stuff. So how is your process working? What are the challenges?
So the key here is you understanding who you're selling to, right, and asking the right questions. I'm gonna give you my perspective. If I have a listing, if I'm sitting in your shoes and I get an offer, my first question is gonna be, are you wholesaling it or are you keeping it? Everybody that's wholesaling is gonna say, no, I'm gonna keep it, right? They're gonna tie you up. They're gonna go send it out, get a few buyers, come back and say, you know what, my partner's gonna take it over. And then at that time, if they release their contingencies and everything's fine, you're still gonna close the transaction, you're still getting paid, most likely you're double ending it. Is there any harm there? For me, the lack of disclosure creates the lack of relationship, right? What if you start looking at it and say, well, if there's wholesalers out there, how do I benefit, right? There's two sides of the agents. Agents that have their investors never, ever, ever call us. They can put in the MLS, they're gonna go pending right up after 2 seconds. I can text them and email them 1,000 times. They have that relationship, right? If you don't have that relationship, it doesn't mean that you don't work with investors. You just don't happen to have that investor for that particular property. Understanding that the wholesalers can bring value as long as you understand you're controlling the relationship by going out there and putting them in the right contingency period, non-refundable deposits, and shorten the time. Because at the end, you're gonna get paid and you're gonna double on the property. So let them tell you they're wholesaling. Support the fact that there's wholesaling, but don't put yourself in a situation where you get hurt, right? I'm not gonna open escrow until you release contingencies. That's the best one and the best way to put somebody in check because they don't have time to shop you. So there's a lot of ways to truly use their value. What's their value? They're bringing buyers that you can't get a hold of. That's it. So the fact is we're essentially.
So one more time out there. He gave you a secret formula for holding a investor in check. Did you hear that?
Yes,
What was the secret formula?
non-refundable deposit.
Non-refundable deposit, releasing all contingencies upon acceptance. So just understand, by the way, any of you guys not done that and seen an investor get squirrely on you? I have personally.
Or change your price.
Right, or change their price.
So here's the thing, if I come over and you accept my offer, and I came in and I tied you up higher than I would pay just to tie you up. Now it's you and I, everybody, all the noise is done, right? Now I can come back and say, hey, listen, you know what? I need this, I need that. Who has to go face the seller? You, not me, right? So you guys look bad because you're not asking the right questions. And here's the other thing, if it's an investor, if you're the investor.
By the way, this is strategy number 2 of a wholesaler, just so you understand. You go to a wholesaling class, he's giving you strategy number 2. Isolate the agent, make him squirm.
Right. Now, you're gonna go out and have to face the seller, but you don't wanna have to go back to the market. Most likely you're double ending it, so what are you gonna do? You're gonna try to make that work. But you put yourself in a tough situation.
Yeah.
So you have to ask the right questions, and the first question is this property worth what they're paying? Because the fact is that if I'm gonna go out, if you got all your offers at 450, they're all flip investors, why is this guy paying 20 more? He's gonna change your price, guaranteed.
To 430.
And they're gonna come back and change it. And what it is you're being hopeful and you're not doing your homework. And there's, I mean.
Well, you're also being greedy because you're the only one that's allowing you to double ended. The other one's taking it from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I kind of like your number, and it's an easier sale when I go to my seller and say, I'll give you some more, I can get you more if you take my buyer.
Exactly.
Right? But you just put yourself in a catch-22 because the moment the contract is complete, my buyer now changes his mind, and then he ends up going into a situation where now my integrity is at stake, and now I look like I'm squirming, right? Because you already planned it now.
And your seller doesn't know me, they know you, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of things for you guys to take in consideration. There's some really good wholesalers, and there's some people that we actually wholesale to, that they wholesale, right? And you sit there and say, how did this guy add? And I'm not gonna say any names, but there's some good companies that sell to the right buyers, right?
Yeah.
So what we're doing and starting to make a huge difference is my audience, my buyer audience, are investors that are smaller, that don't have the resources or the ability to get in front of people or agents or the relationships we built over this many, many years. We sell that to them, we provide them resources, we help them live and grow as flippers so they can become our clients. The other side, and this is where it gets really, really interesting, is we're actually looking for what we're calling people that are looking for a good deal. There's a few, there's not a lot, but the fact is that somebody's looking to just sold their home cash. They're looking to buy a good deal, right? Even though it doesn't fit for my investor, it makes sense for somebody who's looking to live in the home, right? So that's the type of people we're bringing to the table to you guys now, that are not just the investors, they're the people that are actually looking for a good opportunity. So I'm able to bring those type of people to you guys. I'm able to pay you guys.
It's this newest pickup line, you guys.
Yes.
You like that new pickup line?
It works.
So
Because
So his
everybody
newest,
wins.
by the way, guess, when it's his newest pickup line, whose newest pickup line should it be?
Ours.
It should be
Exactly.
yours. What did he just tell you that is a phenomenal way for you to talk about having the opportunity to have an exclusive right to sell a property? What is it? Go ahead and say it again.
What was that?
So you were saying that there are these other
Oh,
buyers.
we call them they're looking for a good deal, right?
A good deal buyer. So I want you to take that and understand that the good deal buyer is a way for you to take that property off the market, get an exclusive relationship, and find a good deal buyer for it, okay? So the point is that at the end of the day, if you're going in with the traditional mindset that I'm gonna take a listing, I'm gonna take it in full list, I'm gonna do that, you're on a different bus, man. The bus that's here in 2019, almost 2020, is the bus that's going into the world of $15 billion, disrupting your ability to sell anything, okay? So just know that the good deal buyer strategy is an effective one, very effective. Thank you for that.
I have a question. So, the same phone, I have a, this, the dealers,
Sure.
but they come out of cash.
Right.
As soon as I see that I have sold my listing to you, and you have the inventory now, are you allowed agents to connect with you? So look, I have. a buy,
Absolutely.
In these 30 days, we start to check whatever.
Absolutely.
So the premium price.
So there's a couple of things I'm gonna change shifts a little bit on something that is really important, and keep in mind, this is my perspective. Like I said, I'm a broker myself as well. I've seen agents take on an opportunity and lose it to another iBuyer because they were not willing to adjust their commission. I know it's really sensitive, and I think.
By the way,
we're stuck to-
we have discount commission issues right up there on the board, so let's
Okay,
not
good.
do that.
All right, so I'm not gonna piss
You're
off.
not gonna piss anybody off. By the way, are we required here at this office to sell at any particular commission? So this particular office has it that you can sell at whatever commission.
And here's the thing, guys, listen, I don't do things for free. I buy homes to make a dollar, so I'm not saying I'm here to take your dollar. What I'm saying is common sense approach to making a deal work. When a homeowner is saying, I got an offer from another, I won't say names, another competitor of ours. And
Zillow.
yeah, they're good. The Zillow monster, right?
Right.
So they have another offer, and the agent is saying, well, right now you offered me to double end it, so I charge them 5%. They're getting a better offer. I need you to come up. I'm going to give you my best and highest. My box comes in. I'm not going to live in the house. I can give you my number, and I'll give you my best. The agent lost the sale because they were not willing to discount 1%. And then I realized that once that transaction closed, I called back the agent. I said,
What happened?
Did they represent the other person? No. I said, why didn't you bring in that 1%? I'm not a discount broker. I said, thank you very much. I was like, wow.
So Tony, go ahead.
So we just had a sales meeting 3 weeks ago about this. We were talking about iBuyers, and almost the entire room said they would be unwilling to do more units at less commission. I agree.
Yeah, here your comment on the back, I'm sorry.
That's dumb.
Yeah, so here's the thing, you guys, and Tony is, he represents you as a broker, he represents himself as an investor, he represents a partnership, one of the only partnerships that actually protects you to get an iBuyer. All the other places you're not protected. If you're a seller, you're protected. There's all the aspects. 10% of property sold in Phoenix market right now. We're approaching that number. It's just under 10 right now, but we're very close. And they are going into iBuyers' hands. iBuyer's hands are taking over that entire market. And what happens is, if you think about it, who here is a seller that's having their house from head to toe, from moving out, from staging it, from painting? Nobody's excited about that. So the mindset of a seller is very similar to the mindset of a car seller. Why is CarMax doing so well? CarMax, you drive the car in, they give you an offer, and you trade it in. That's exactly what's happening in the real estate world, folks. So for you to not be flexible on how you show up with commissions, it's just a sign of the fact that the travel industry is coming to the real estate industry. Is really what it comes down to. Think about travel agents back in the day when they weren't willing to flex on their commissions. When Orbitz and Travelocity and all these Expedia, when they came, oh, I'm a 10% travel agent, I got to make 10% on every trip I book. And Expedia came in and said, we're gonna do it for 1%. What happens? Right?
One day, they killed each other. My best friend was a travel agent. One day, they closed his shop.
Now, by the way,
when the Expedia launched, he said, one day he sat at his desk with his door open in London, and they were huge and traveling all over London. Not one person came into his shop that day. They were all at the office online looking at Expedia.
right.
He lost his travel agency business in
Right.
one day.
Well, and by the way, that's a bell curve conversation as well, because in the bell curve, you're right, but there are still luxury travel experiences available through luxury travel agents. And if you want to have a really a 5-star experience, then there are agents that are specific to that. So you can still find that. But remember, we're talking about in the bell curve, out of the bell curve. So please don't apply this entire conversation to the entire world, 200 to 800,000, okay? So if you want to solve your problem to be a long-term agent just the way you were, it's possible you could do that above 800,000 for a little bit longer. There's a longer runway above 800K. The challenge with that is that I wouldn't bank on it, because when Wall Street starts to see the money involved with luxury selling, they're going to disintermediate that as well. And why wouldn't they? Because you think about them, they want the most convenience. The more you're worth to eat, the more your time is valuable, right? So it's a big thing. So Tony, I know we're over on time, so we're going to go with last round. Who's got a burning desire to ask a question? Okay, go ahead.
Are we connected to your inventory?
So go through it's iBuyer Connect, go through your cloud, as you're doing your CMA, just, you can have a little pop-up, say cash offer, and we have our team behind this to go through. If you want to talk to me personally, I'm available, and as I said, we are looking to educate the agents so you guys understand the math. It's all about math, it's all about understanding the sellers, and we will educate you through that. Once you understand how to approach that homeowner, it makes sense and become a resource, and not walk in and say, I want a listing, I want 5-6%, that's it, right? When you're a resource, here's option A, here's option B, here's the best way, this is what works, and this is how to do it, you will see a lot more listings. And by the way, you can go out and knock on that door and say, I have a cash buyer for you right now. Are you interested in selling? That's what iBuyer Connect does for you, to be able to offer that and have a true buyer. So you have
you want an email, Facebook, or Twitter, or what do you want to? How do you want us to connect you?
The best thing to do is go through Investnotic. So invest, NOTIC.com. And there's a get an offer button. And who gets our emails? At least once every year, right? We do send quite a few emails with our goals for you guys to know. Right now, we are working on, like I said, an education program that is going to really open your eyes, and it's based on that. It's based on being able to help you guys bring value to that homeowner.
So let's give Tony some feedback. What are your ahas from this part of the conversation? We're going to take a break right after, and then we're going to come back. But let's give him some love, energy back in the form of feedback. What did you learn from this first part of this conversation?
We're not educating.
We're not educating enough. Thank you.
We're too controlled, and we're not going out of our borders.
Right.
That's the problem. We're too laser focused.
Yeah, we're not getting out of the box, right? Yeah, absolutely. What'd you learn, Bigger?
Well, the idea is that not to be afraid of the technology, and also possibly use it to your advantage.
Absolutely.
And then also kind of like almost like partnership,
Exactly.
that makes it a win partnership.
Yeah, thank you for that. Ken?
Before today, I thought you were another Zillow, but now I understand you work with us.
Yes, exactly. And I think the point is, it's a relationship. The more we know you, the more you know us, the more you're gonna be able to go out and look for the right. We get agents that send us a lot of stuff, it's just the wrong stuff, they're wasting their time. So it's an education piece for us, and it's just finding the right people, the right situation, right? They're losing their homes, divorce and things like that. So there's a way to really laser into those type of jobs.
That's awesome.
I
Yes.
was gonna say that
How fast you go put the offer?
So I can get an offer to you really quickly. So it's not an issue of the
15
offer,
minutes for me.
it's the right offer.
Is it like a 24-hour turnaround?
Yeah, 24 hour, but I think to your point is, if you don't have the information, I'm gonna give you a little bit broader, because I don't wanna kill you. Sometimes when you say, listen, and you guys know this, when you walk up to a house, you can almost see what the inside looks like, right? That applies to us, right? So if the yard's super clean and you can see that the cars are well taken care of, most likely it could be that needs work, but it's still clean. Or then you got the car with the wheels off in the front yard, then I can tell what it looks like inside too.
All right, one last piece and then we're gonna wrap.
I was gonna say,
Oh, sorry, two more. We're gonna go here and here and then we're done.
So I have closed in 2 days, and that my office manager kills me. Average 10 days is best to go 15. 15, I don't have to do
And
backflips.
by the way, anything with condo associations,
Right.
you have to have disclosures on HOA, so that means it does automatically take whatever time it takes them to generate them.
Foreclosures and stuff like that, guys, if somebody's losing a house and they need to get bailed out, I can close super quick. So that's all, as you guys know, homeowners go out and wait until last minute, and they're calling you saying, I gotta sell next week, we can help.
Okay.
So we're gonna go right here, then we're gonna go to a break.
just a feedback, I mean, I say just a lot of you changing agent or education, because like the traditional way of finding customers, writing with them. I think we gotta change the direction. Tony, also, our education has to change it.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is, you can't just know what you're doing.
Right.
Look at the whole market.
Absolutely, absolutely. Good. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, there's one more question.
Oh, yeah, we have one.
Yeah, you got it.
All right. Again, we're gonna take a quick break. We are gonna take, I'm gonna go run to the restroom. We're gonna be back in 4 minutes. So take a quick break. And I'm gonna, let's give a big round of Tony. We'll just keep Facebook rolling so we get one screen.
What was your contact on you? Invest what?
Invest. There you go.
So then you
Yeah.
Invest, no.
I got a couple of
Yes.
houses that sounds good.
Oh, perfect. You know.
What kind of margin are you looking at?
We're doing 10%.
10% of what?
10%, so what we call the total development cost, that is our purchase and our rehab. So if I buy it for $450 and if I put 50, my total development cost is 500, 10%. That's a really good margin across the board.
So.
The most
I'm-
invested.
And so you really do, okay.
So there's a video I'll send you that actually really gets down to the math.
So that way I understand which one you.
Sure.
Which one you don't.
Right. And here's the thing, we don't mind doing the math for you.
I didn't tell you, I told you to call him.
Well, no, yes, I have to eventually get in. But if, say, for example, if you're saying, hey, they want to move out, there's a tenant, I can give you estimates. I mean, I don't have to look on it. The reality is I tell people, it's, unless the house is not cracked in half. Things that are important to us, like deaths, if somebody dies at the property, it's important that we know. Reason being, for example, for me, my community, I'm Hispanic, they believe in the Llorona and stuff like that.
I don't.
Well, you know, it'll hurt your values, and some people don't care, right? It's little variables that are important. Thank you.
You're on the single family house or?
Well, condos, townhouses, SFRs mostly. We'll do commercial, like little commercial stuff, but we're not the right buyer for that, you know, and I will tell you, we're not the right buyer.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Good model.
Yeah, it works really well.
Yeah, I do a lot of listening to. Typically, we didn't have the money to. Right. I care about my fiduciary duty. I mean, don't.
So, yeah,
Don't.
that's fine.
So that's the reason why I don't get a whole lot. just from this page, oh, you don't do that anymore. But Keller Williams is developing that model that
Keller
is being
offers.
tried, that is not just, it's not like for giving the money, it's to do it upfront.
Well, that's the concierge service.
Concierge
Yeah.
service, I want to be a part of that because I, like I was telling you, it is, that's what I was gonna say, Gary has thought about the model. And so
I'm gonna
instead
write it
of
down.
giving kind of our listening,
Sure.
now it's still listening. And yes, it's hard, so I get the convenience factor, but I usually want that, right? Instead of giving that product
Yeah.
another thing.
All right,
You
guys,
can
we're
make
gonna
it easy.
get started.
As long as you make it easy, that's it.
We walk into a homeowner and we say we're a resource, this is what you have, and we provide them a lot of information, and that's where they turn around and they become disarmed, because
I'm gonna
we're
start
not
with
there.
an open door offer here
We're
on
not there to take their.
one of these properties. to make an idea.
Right. Usually when I have a listing, I usually have a list of probably like 2 pages of exactly what, because I do an interview over the phone before I walk into them. So I know where the really bad parts. Would that be a benefit to you as far as giving you more information?
Oh,
Because you
absolutely.
have that kind of information that you know, where's the deferred maintenance,
Okay,
where's
so
the
we're gonna
upgrades.
move Ron and Tony to the hallway conversation.
Yes.
And then,
Yes.
we're gonna get started here.
We're gonna get going.
And then, I may need some AV checks up on there. Oh, there we go. All right, so
Yeah, exactly.
this is one competitor who is in the market right now. I could go in the MLS and pull up actual listings from Open Door. I want you guys to know that hopefully the first part of this conversation was that Tony and others can be friends of ours. They can be partners of ours. They can support our clients on their journey. When we go back and look at what our goal was to accomplish a lot of different things inside of this conversation. But one of the things I wanted you to make sure you understand is that I see right here helping people make a decision. And then I also see value to the seller. What's one of the number one ways you can bring value to the seller when it comes to what Tony provides? Convenience, right? If you give them the idea, I mean, sellers, basically the way I look at my world is I'm looking at the lens of real estate. Is that I look at people in 3 categories. People that own 0 homes, 1 home, or more than 1 home. Okay? So if you look at the world through 0, 1, or more than 1, what you're going to find is that the zeros are the people that need help finding a property, right? Those are what we call buyers or future homeowners, theoretically, or they're my tenants, which I'm glad to have those as well. I've got amazing tenants. I love my tenants. Or they own 1 property, and that 1 property might be the mindset that they currently have about the fact that they only own 1 at a time. Not good or bad, but my vision for what we set 5 Doors Network to be was to build generational wealth through real estate. So my goal is to help people go from 0 to 1 and then to more than 1. And the more than 1 people are the ones that are very much interested in this iBuyer type of mindset. Because the more than 1 people are generally it's the family member that inherited a property that's selling it and just wants a quick sale, right? There's these more than 1 sellers that are most likely the candidates for that quick offer, that cash offer, if you will. The person that owns 1, where we're seeing in other markets, especially Phoenix, the person that owns just 1 property, they're also looking for that as well. But if you had to prioritize where you were looking, it's the 1 or more than 1, and if you had to prioritize again, what's the one thing that we do such that everything else becomes easier and necessary? More than 1 is really where it is at the moment, but it will move to the 1s as well. We know that the more than 1s are more interested in those quick cash offers, and then the people that own just 1 address will ultimately be interested as well. So the key question is, how are you adapting your mindset about what you know about your seller? Do you even know if they own more than 1? I mean, a lot of times you say yes, but I guarantee you many, many people have gone on listing appointments and didn't know that there was more than 1 property involved in the family. And in that situation, a person that has more than 1 property, what is their EQ, their emotional intelligence, if you will, as it relates to real estate, if a person's in the more than 1 category?
They're always looking for a deal.
They're usually higher, right? The person that owns more than 1 property has successfully owned more than 1 property, so they automatically go into a next level. So if you're dealing with a person that's only on 1 property, not 1 ever, but 1 at a time, what you're finding is that that's a different level of, let's call it emotional intelligence or real estate intelligence than the person that owns more than 1. So we have to adapt. We have to look at how is it that we change the way that we look at things inside of how we're showing up for people. The challenge is that a listing presentation wrote in 2018 is ineffective. It's ineffective. Our course, Win with Sellers, which is the course that I'm giving you right now in the form of what we have, not good or bad. There's a lot of great things inside of it, but our challenge is not how to manage a listing right now. Our challenge is how to find a listing. Our challenge is how to find a listing before someone else finds a listing. Our challenge is how to find a listing before another agent finds a listing, another sphere of influence finds a listing, another Keller Offers, another Open Door, another Zillow. Obviously, Keller Offers is going to support us on providing cash offer as well. But my point is that there's a lot of disruption on finding these listings. They're mainly focused in that bell curve of 200,000 to 800,000 here in Orange County. But what they're really focused on more than anything is they're focused on bringing that customer value. So why is it that you would not want to bring them value by saying, here's what you can have right now? Just as it is. And as is offered, it's kind of silly. It's kind of not smart at this point because they may already be doing that, or they may do that the moment you walk out the door and you don't get the listing. You wonder why you didn't get the listing because they went on opendoor.com and they put in the offer. So I've done this for a number of my addresses. I see a bunch of addresses up here. I don't know if anybody's in the room that's on this board here, but if you are in the room and you're on this board and you're between 200 and 800,000, I'd love to pick on anybody on this board or anybody that has a listing between 200 and 800,000 that is already signed listing, because I don't want to take anybody's addresses here. Can we put one in for fun? Sure. Okay. We're gonna go through.
Thank you.
What's that?
I'm curious.
Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna go through it real quick, and our goal is to learn. This is what we call a lead capture conversion process. So you need to think like exactly what we're doing right now. Okay. You need to think of the mind of a consumer, a seller. Your seller, we're going to pick on right now, and we're going to be your seller for the sake of this conversation. What's the address?
11025 Jordan, Jordan Road.
See how it already knows it?
In Whittier.
There you go. See how I pulled it up right there? So then we just click on it, and it says get my free offer. And now we say now remember, we're watching this because we're watching them fill the funnel. Remember, this is an automated process. By the way, is it easier for you guys, if you're a seller, do you want to talk to anybody or do you just want an offer? You just want an offer, don't you?
Yeah.
What's my homework? Right? But this is not about all the old home valuation websites, they suck. You should pretty much throw them out because at the end of the day, people don't want a value, they want an offer. Right? And that's where, I was up at Zillow in June, looking at some of the things that they're doing up there. And in Zillow at June, they did a study of Amazon. And do you guys realize that just 2 years ago, by the way, raise your hand if you're a Prime member, if you're a member of Amazon Prime. Are you saying that I only have 4 people in the room that are Amazon Prime members? So in vast majority of the room where I do that, we have well over 50%. What I will tell you is that as a Prime member, I expect my groceries very quickly, right? Amazon Fresh, I get them in 1 hour. Amazon, same day, Prime Now it's called, I get them in 2 hours. And then I get them on average in 2 days. They did a study 2 years ago of the same people that use that same service, and 3 or 4 days was completely okay. And now we need it in 2 hours or 1 hour. So what's happening is that the whole world is being compressed by time because of the value of our time. And by the way, millennials are a big part of this as well, right? And boomers are really kind of adapting to what millennials are doing, and they're adding on to what they want too. They're saying, well, I like what they want, so I want that. So boomers are actually wanting that as well. That's why these sites are doing so well. I'm saying all that to say that would they rather call you? See, this is the challenge. This is the challenge. So what does that mean? Is you better call them and say, hey, would you be interested in a no obligation offer on your home? Right? I mean, would you be open to just understanding what the value of your home is as it is right now? Yeah. Would you be open to that? Because the challenge is that if you're calling them and saying, hey, I want to update you on your home value, that may be not what they're interested in, and they can just go to any website to find that out. Not just any, but here we are at Open Door in Orange County. Now we're going to this property. We're going to click on it. I'm sorry, LA, forgive me.
Okay.
We're close enough. So then, by the way, it says this one was currently listed with an agent. This listing should give you the information, blah, blah, blah. Yes, send the offer to my agent. See that? So they're already prepared to generate an offer on a listed property. By the way, that's a problem for Tony. and I'm not picking on Tony, Tony will get a copy of the recording.
Yeah.
But the fact is, Tony actually wants to generate that offer for you.
Yep.
And he does that, and most of the offers that he writes, the 500 offers that he writes per month, those are all off of listed properties, vast majority of them, off of listed properties, just like we're about to generate right now. So please let us know if you're the homeowner or the agent. We're gonna say you're the agent just because you are the agent, right? And we'll be sending you an offer shortly. That was it. Is that crazy? So I want to go back. We're going to try this again. Anybody have an address of a property that's tied up in a contract, an exclusive listed contract that's not in the MLS yet, that you're preparing for the
Can I
market?
say one thing?
Yeah.
The only thing, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Because there's a gentleman who's sending offers out blind,
Uh-huh.
at least $150,000 less.
Sure. Yeah. So what your question is, what will the offer price will be?
I'm curious.
Yeah. Well, the offer price on average, what iBuyers are paying across the nation is they're paying somewhere between 90 and 95% of the market price. And what they're doing is they're calling that the convenience fee. So if you want 100% of the price, there's a 6% real estate commission on average. You know and so 94% becomes the convenience fee, and then they start dropping it from there, and they start adding convenience fees into it. You can actually go on to it's so funny if you do this seller net sheet California. So here's a bunch of website searches that come up, right? Different websites. When I did this recently, guess who I got? I got Open Door, and it was calculating how to calculate a net sheet. They will tell you how they price the home, how to request an offer. Now, what's happening though is that they also are placing a cookie on your computer, and they're saying, "Oh, this must be an agent that's working here." So they communicate with you differently because you're an agent than they would if you're a seller, and you're going to get different advertising, different feedback from this because they know that this is you, because they can also see that from your cookies that you've logged into the MLS, that you've logged into these other sites. That must mean you're an agent, and so that's all the big data that's going on in the background as well. I say all that to say that what I was going to do is pull up this net sheet, and they have trade-in programs. You know what's happening with the builders, by the way. I don't know if anybody has any builder accounts, but what's happening with the builders is that the people that used to do builder accounts are losing out to companies like this because the builder has partnered, as a matter of fact, with Open Door. KB Homes invested $100 million into Open Door because they wanted to eliminate all the agents from the new home sales, right? Because what's really easy is that they're able to connect the dots here. Have you guys, anybody ever seen an Open Door showing? Have you ever seen how? And I would challenge you right away. Go open a door at Open Door. It doesn't require anything. You download the app, and then you can go have a showing on your own. And your app communicates to their electronic lock on the front. It's an actual regular lock. It's actually, I think, a QuickSet 904. And that lock then opens for you as you go to the door because of proximity with Bluetooth. But then it also locks behind you as you enter the door for safety within 30 seconds. And it's all the technology that they built in. They use a little computer called the Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi has a 3G modem attached to it. It's sitting in that house, and it tracks the motion flow of where people are walking through the home. It tracks how long they're spending in the kitchen, how long they're spending in the master bath. It tracks all that and brings all that big data back. Why? Because they know how to invest in where they're putting the upgrades. It also has something. You know, the higher end homes have cameras, but they're taking all that data and they're figuring out what do consumers want based on the way that they walk through the home. And then they also are able to follow up with different vigor based on the amount of time that they're spending in the home. And so this is all where big data is coming in. This is what's happening in our industry right now. So I bring this up to show you. So that was the age one. Then yes.
Can you give me an offer?
Sure. Do you have an address here you want to try?
Yes.
Okay, let's try one.
6578.
Hold on 1 second. 6578.
Email.
I don't want to Anaheim. Isn't that amazing? I just have to do 6. Isn't that they're listening to us? Yep, that's right. Thanks for checking out over your home. Has unique characteristics set apart from the rest. Unfortunately, those features also make it difficult for us to compare your home to others, so we won't be able to make an offer this time.
What?
Well, we could pull it up and find out, but the point is it's outside the bell curve. So you found an address that doesn't fit their buying window. And what's great about that is that then you need to find another iBuyer that it does fit the window. That's where a Tony Diaz comes into play, or another set of investors. My point is that if you're not walking into the property with the ability to bring them an offer, then you're probably not fully preparing them. Talk about bringing
I'm
value.
gonna be honest with you,
Yeah.
I went through Tony's, I think it's Tony, or.
Yeah, Tony Fletcher and Tony Diaz, yeah.
Had told me about it.
Yeah.
And so I had gone through it, and the person that called me basically said, have you seen the property? And I said, no, I'm going on a listing appointment.
Right.
And then he wanted the address. I said, I'm not gonna give you the full address, but I'm gonna give you the street address. So I gave him street, and the first thing out of his mouth was like, oh, I'm already working with another agent for that.
Nice.
So, I mean, I just don't feel that there's a lot of confidentiality in.
No, that was honoring the other agent's relationship.
I don't need to know that.
Okay.
I don't need to know that. That's not honoring it because he's telling me, stuff that I don't need to know. And I just don't feel comfortable. And I'm glad, that's why I asked the first question is,
Yeah.
How do we know you're a broker, you're not gonna say, here you go, go knock on that person's door because they're gonna make a listing presentation.
So
So it's trust.
do you ever really know? I mean, the answer is you don't know.
So the question is trust, and
Right.
I was waiting for him to respond with, we have written, in writing.
Right. Yeah, there's an agreement between him and Cloud CMA. So there is an agreement, and part of his agreement may be to disclose what he disclosed to you. I don't know if that's part of the agreement or not, but it seems to make good sense to me for him to at least know that.
I said to the guy, I'd like to use my home address as an example.
Right.
I'm in the neighborhood, my neighborhood, so
Right.
I might use my home address as an example of what your report looks like to the state of New York.
Yeah, because you're not a real seller, and I think that
He knew that.
Yeah,
He
I'm
knew
just saying with a 10-man team,
He could have told me that.
right?
He could have said, I'm not.
Well, that's
gonna
a
send it to
customer
them.
service opportunity for Tony for sure. So my recommendation for you, and if somebody gave that feedback to me, I would say thank you. So thank you for the feedback, and I would also say, what can I do to learn from that? The learning for me would be, don't ever make a commitment about doing something you're not going to do, right? So that was a break in commitment, and that break in commitment caused you to have distrust. So congratulations, that is the experience of a consumer consuming in a real estate world. Now let's figure out how to not do that with our sellers and our buyers and our network, right?
Because if that's my partner, I'm not feeling comfortable right now.
1000%
I'm
agree.
on a partnership.
Yeah, I'm sure that you would remedy that situation right away if you knew about it. You just didn't know about it. So just escalate it. Tony, you got his contact information, and I would definitely just let him know, hey, I want to give you some feedback. That's valuable for people that are open to it. For people that are not open to it, it's obviously not valuable. That's how we end up with bad Yelp reviews, right? That's how we end up with people that are less effective because we're not getting a closed loop on the feedback. So I appreciate the feedback. I think that what you're going to find though is that if that happened on a Zillow website, what kind of feedback would you get? Nothing. They would just buy the house and you wouldn't get anything at all, right? So I'm not saying good, bad, right, or wrong. I'm just simply saying at the end of the day, that is a closed loop opportunity for customer service experience with Tony's team. Because somebody on the team made a commitment that they didn't keep, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so that would be just the opportunity to go back and say, hey, maybe they should not do any quote samples, or maybe they should follow through on a commitment they're making, one of the two.
I would have been happy with him saying, you know what, we do over 500 a month. We really don't have the opportunity to create one customized, just so you can see one, but we have samples that we can be more than happy to share with you, so that you can see the layout, you can see the information we provide. I would have been happy with that.
I 1000% agree. I think that's great feedback. So, maybe he'll watch the video, maybe he'll watch the Facebook Live, and we can get feedback that way, or maybe you can give it to him directly. I think it's a gift, especially for anybody here not in customer service? Okay, I'm in customer service, and so I really appreciate that, because basically what you can find is that that you lost a valued client, because you're not going to go back and use that service because of the fact that there's a break in commitment. And true for all of our other experiences where we have that opportunity, right? So it's a critical component. So we've got an address that doesn't fit in there. We have an address that's already listed. Do we have any addresses of deals that have been listed but are not in the system yet? I can go back to one of my addresses. Do you have one? Yep. Okay, cool. Between 2 and 8? Yep. Okay, cool. So let's
It's not on the MLS yet.
okay. So we got a pocket listing we can help Ron sell. All right.
4572. Logan Linda, one word.
Logan Linda, Yorba Linda, here we go. So get my free offer. All right, is this the address? Yes, that's right. And is it a 4.2, built in 64? So you can see this is the funnel, right? Here we go. I want to think there's a page I specifically want. Garage spaces, is it 2?
Yep.
2. How many floors do you have? 1. Over, be ready.
But you say I was gonna sound
Get your downsizers in here. Any of these apply. Solar, known foundation, gate, age restricted, chemical, well, asbestos. None. So none of the above. Next. Have you or any of the previous owners added to the living area since the original construction? No. Okay. Let's verify the square footage, 50 by 26. Okay. And what kind of countertops do you have?
Granite.
Okay. And what type of kitchen appliances do you have?
Oh, white.
Okay. And does your kitchen have any of the following features? Island, cabinets, backsplash, double ovens?
None.
None. Have you remodeled your kitchen since you purchased your home?
Yeah, but not in the last 5 to 10.
5 to 10 years, okay. What did you upgrade?
Countertops. Countertops. Oh yeah, actually cabinets as well.
Cabinets?
Probably flooring. Nope. Not flooring.
Okay, that's it. All right, so we're gonna go there. Interesting, right? Where it's going through and it's filling the funnel. Would this make your listing appointment a little bit easier? What is the overall condition of your kitchen? Needs work, average condition, looks brand new?
I'm just gonna say average.
Average, okay. Does your master bath have any of these features? Double sink, granite counterspace, a separate tub, tile showers, updated tile?
Tired shower. Tired shower.
Okay. Have you ever remodeled your master bathroom before you purchased your home?
Yes. The last 5 years.
In the last 5 years, it's remodeled? And you say it looks brand new?
Yes.
All right, and what's the visible condition of the interior paint? Needs work, average condition, looks brand new?
Painted it a week ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all the walls are neutral colors? Yep. Isn't that interesting? By the way, can you see the funnel here, guys? I want you to understand that this is the funnel that your sellers need to understand. Do we have to do any, what does our listing presentation look like with this? Do we actually have to do anything at all? Isn't this kind of telling them what they need to do to prepare their home? It's pretty straightforward, right? What type of flooring do you have in your home?
Combination, so it's crappy flooring. It's got hardwood, it's got laminate, it's got hardwood, the original hardwood.
Let's say laminate, just the big one. And then you selected laminate. Which rooms have this type of flooring?
Dining room, kitchen. That's it.
Okay. What's the overall condition of the one?
It's needs work.
You notice that you did not pick a flooring type for your living room.
Wow.
Isn't that
Wow.
amazing?
Yes, it is.
Parquet, which is really old. It's hardwood. It's really old.
Yeah, we'll say hardwood and we'll make it, oh, and it says, we noticed you didn't pick one for your master bedroom.
That's hardwood.
Oh, that's also
It's
hardwood.
actual.
Okay. What is the condition of your backyard?
Sparse landscape.
Do you have a pool? No pool? It knew that, by the way. I was just testing you. What is the condition of your home's exterior facade? Needs work, average, liking?
Average.
Is your home next to any of the following?
Right.
By the way, again, if you have that screenshot of that page, would it be a little bit easier to talk to a seller that's near any of those things to show them that the value is different because it's near those things? Do you have to actually do any heavy lifting or tell them from your own words? Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about the home? It's
Other than
lovely.
Straight ceilings. There's not many other upgrades that they went through all the things.
Okay. Are you the owner or are you the realtor? Now, what's interesting is that I've done this funnel both as an owner of a property that I wasn't an owner of, and I've done it as a realtor of a property that I was a lister of. So you can do it either way. I want you to know that there's not a major difference from this point forward in how they touch you. The difference though is that if you want to receive a commission from them for sending the deal, you want to make sure that you say that you're the realtor. They will send you a 1% referral fee to send them the deal. So they will send you a 1% referral fee for that deal. What is your sale timeline? ASAP, right?
Yep. It's gonna run tomorrow or Monday.
And where should we send your offer? So let's just send it to Ron. And what's your email?
Ron@ronarnold.com.
And brokerage is Keller Williams. And your MLS agent ID, and they're gonna verify this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Arnold Ron.
What is it?
P-A-R.
P-A-R.
R-O-N.
There we go. And then almost done, get my offer. And then please verify the homeowner by selecting the list.
It's the Virginia Forest Trust.
And then how much do you think the home is worth today? This is optional. But what my recommendation is, I've been goofing around with this, and my recommendation is to put a number in that is lower, so I can at least get the offer, or leave it blank. That's my recommendation. I'm just messing with the system right now, just so you know. So, or you can put a number that's higher if you want to. It's up to you. You want to put a number in or not?
I think I want to see what they do.
Okay, we'll skip it. Now look at this. This is the page I wanted to get to. Who was talking about? I haven't been in the property yet. I think it was you were talking about. Forgive me. What's your first name again?
Emily.
Emily. So you were talking about, well, I haven't been in the home yet. Well, think about it. If you're the homeowner and you're going through this whole process, and then you upload the photos, will you ever get the phone call? No. You'll never get the phone call. You're never going to get the phone call, guys. Can you understand that you have to out-nurture Zillow? You have to out-nurture Open Door. That is the message I need to send loud and clear to you guys today. That this conversation is about how do I out-nurture them? Because you will never get the phone call when they upload the photos and get their offer, if it's an offer that makes sense for them. You see that?
And that's how I felt with the guy, giving him the address.
Right.
He didn't ask me for photos, but, he wanted to know what the inside looked like. I said, well, I'm going on the listing presentation. So I felt that if I gave the address, I would never get that listing.
Right.
Because I'm giving away the farm.
Right, exactly. And then what they have to do, as you can tell, is they have to do a lot of work to earn your trust by, one, making commitments they can keep, and two, by actually having you understand the relationship that they're protecting for you, which is they want to be one of the non Zillows and the non-Open Doors, because they want to come in and actually be a partner to you.
And I had to leave because I had a call that I needed to take, so I don't know if it was discussed in that time period was gone, but it would be nice if Tony had, we just went through all these funnels.
Right.
If he had a list of questions to ask that are funnels over the phone, so that when his guys do call you, you have the answer.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I agree.
It would be
1000%.
nice to have that.
But by the way, guys, whose funnel does this need to be? It needs to be your
I
funnel, right? You need a funnel that looks just like this. By the way, can you do that right now? Yes, you can. We just did that for Ron. You could just use their funnel temporarily. The challenge is you're also feeding it to the wolves, because you've now given the information of that property. If he doesn't have a signed listing contract, you could be in trouble. So what do you do if you don't have a signed listing contract? We need to talk about how to get temporary short-term listing contracts now. We need to talk about how to get 3-day listing contracts that are cancelable at any time, so we can go shopping for our sellers. That's what we need to be talking about, right? Because now you can actually have, hey, look, I want to bring you some offers right away. You don't have to do anything. I'm going to just sign this temporarily. This is my commitment to you. Then I'll bring you offers. You're not going to, nobody's going to solicit you, but I just want to make sure that if I'm going to do this work, that I can have that happen.
Okay, but by saying no one's gonna solicit you, once you put it into the system, doesn't it kind of expand out? Like,
Yeah,
there's gonna
Open
be
Door doesn't
other-
want to give this to Zillow. Open Door doesn't want to give this to anybody else.
but they have agents that they work with or sell that to, don't they?
No. Well, I can't, first of all, I'm not speaking for Open Door, so you know that. The answer is right now, it's my understanding, yes, they have agents they want to partner with on the buyer side to show listings.
Yeah.
As they move into a market that doesn't understand how they show listings, they partner with agents initially and then they rip them out after. So they're going to come in and they're going to use you and then they're going to let you go. Just kind of like the Amazon deal. I don't know if you guys heard about the Amazon deal, but Amazon has now partnered up with Coldwell Banker. Amazon is charging a 40% referral. So if you say to your Alexa, hey, Alexa, I need a realtor, they'll give you a name, that name gets charged a 40% referral through Coldwell Banker. And that was a deal that Keller Williams said no to. But the point is that at the end of the day, you're going to be taken out. You will be taken out,
Oh, yeah.
and you'll be put into a referral bucket. So just know that this is just a part of the process. And when the photos are uploaded, I'm going to say skip now so you can actually get your offer. But if you have the photos, you can go back in there. They're going to start interfacing. Please give me a number, Ron. You want to put a number in there?
714-457-4009.
And I've done this on my own listing, prior to taking it to market. And I've also done this in the form of getting short-term listing contracts. Short-term listing contract is, hey, Mr. Seller, I forgot your first name. Ather? Okay, so I thought you said different. Athercon, there you go. So Athercon is 2 words? Okay, so Ather. Obviously we've talked about the value that I could bring you today, right? Because I'm looking to bring you value. If I could bring you at least one cash offer where you didn't have to do anything at all, it was close to the market price in the next 72 hours, would you allow me to do that for you? Okay, sign here, right? That's a really simple conversation to have. And it's a low-level commitment that you guys can start to create space with from having to get them committed to a traditional listing contract.
So then Open Door pays you the
Right.
1%.
Correct.
And then you as the agent, you're still charging the seller your 2 to 3 to 4%.
So we did this so I have a team in Boise, Idaho. So we do this all the time, right? All across the nation. We did this at Boise, Idaho on 2 deals just in the last week. And well, guess what the seller chose to do? Disregard that cash offer and took the traditional listing process. But if I had not offered it to them, what would I have possibly ended up with? Nothing, right? I would have ended up with them in curiosity. You were saying, Ken, how do I get people to help them make a decision? Bring them a real offer. That's how you get them to make a decision to move forward with the traditional method. If you don't bring them a real offer, then they're never going to know. They're going to stay in wondering. One of the biggest reasons why our sellers aren't selling, especially the boomers, I'm talking about the people that have a lot of equity that are trying to figure out where they're going to go, is they don't really know how to do the math on the next purchase. And if you bring them a real offer before they're having to do anything to clean up the home, now they're in a good situation where they can actually start to make some plans. And by the way, you as a concierge for their life, you're figuring out how do I work with that Boise relocation. By the way, I have a team in Boise, so if you guys need any referrals, I got a great team in Boise. And what I will tell you is that's one of the #1 cities that people are exiting to.
I know.
And
And
so
Tennessee.
yeah, and now I have a team in Nashville, Tennessee as well, and Clarksville, Tennessee. So come on down. I'll tell you how to connect them. But the point is that as you look at this whole situation, we got to be bringing value as a concierge, and then making those connections in these other markets to make sure that they understand that we want to help them make a soft landing. There's no more non-end-to-end conversations that need to happen with these folks. They need an entire experience from you. They need soup to nuts. And there was a conversation at the break, and I wrote this down, concierge, Gary's experimenting, and there's a lot of organizations, and I actually have done it myself, where I will pay for the paint, I will pay for the staging, I will pay for things in advance because the seller has all their equity locked up in the deal, and then I'll invoice the escrow and get paid back at the end of escrow.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll do that out of my own money. Do it all the time, right? And the reason to do that
I
is,
pay for it, I don't invoice.
well, yeah, that's
I
your
mean,
negotiation.
like for the staging, I don't do the painting or any of that stuff, but.
Yeah, that's negotiation skills, is all it is, right? I mean, it's understanding the value that you want to provide and then figuring out whether it makes sense. Now, by the way, if you have to throw in the staging to still get the deal, should you do that? Yeah, you should do that, right? You should do whatever it takes to get the deal. The only thing that Zillow doesn't have on us right now is the signs in the ground. That's the only thing they don't have on us right now. So, and by the way, are they working on that? You bet they are. And are all these other organizations working on that? They absolutely are. You have the signs in the ground. That's the one advantage that you have right now, and that's the only advantage that you're going to hold on to. And so you're going to have to figure out how to monetize that even in a better way. That means more effective open houses. There was somebody up here saying, I got listings for open houses. There's ways that you can do this. You're just going to have to do it in even a more effective way is what it comes down to.
So, I have a question for you. So, in terms of this concierge, like, okay, you're a foreclosure or a pre-foreclosure. Right?
Pre-foreclosure,
So
no equity.
Okay.
Yeah, no equity, no deal.
Gotcha.
So I'm only doing concierge services where there's equity, because if there's no equity, then we're in a situation where we don't have anything to share.
Okay.
Right? Now,
Well, I mean, people can have equity, they just don't, they lost their job or it's a medical
yeah,
situation.
so if there's equity, the question is if there's equity to pay me. Now, I'm not talking about a little bit of equity, I'm talking about plenty of equity. I'm never gonna risk my own money in a deal that there's not plenty of equity.
Gotcha.
Okay, now there are other plans. By the way, I have one of the addresses I put in here. I've got a listing coming up. You guys probably want to know about this listing. It's coming up in 7395 Thunderbird in Stanton. Single family detached home, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. It's got an unpermitted 4th bedroom attached. It's got a closed-in patio yard. It's in moderate condition. We're going to list it for $488,888. And why am I going to do that? Because I'm going to make you come and see it. Is what's going to happen. Is that? And by the way, guess who's going to drag you there? Your buyer is going to drag you there because I'm teasing your buyer to come and see my listing because I'm using what we call a shifted price strategy or an auction style listing. So I'm pricing it low and letting it go. Now this buyer actually owes like $520 on the home. I mean, the seller owes like $520 on the home. So why am I listing it for $488? Because we're going to see it go up to about $550, most likely. But the point is that if I tease the market and bring in a bunch of offers, then I can put those offers. And so if I'm wearing my retail selling hat, that's another value that I get to choose to add into the stack of value that I bring to sellers, right? And I don't know at the beginning whether the seller needs A, B, or C. But if I'm not coming in with all 3, then what's going to happen is they're going to walk away to someone else. Do you see that? So you really got to be clear about who it is that you're bringing into conversation. Are you going to bring in the whole team, or are you going to bring in just pieces and parts? So what does your listing presentation look like? That really becomes the question. Let me pull this off the screen. So they're working on this. And here's another really interesting thing. You see that on the bottom? Do you feel the open door has collected all the necessary information to correctly value your home? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're constantly surveying their people. And anybody here? I'm an AT&T guy. I walk out of the AT&T store. I get about 25 feet away. They send me a text and say, "How was your experience?" Great. Send a single text, 0 to 5. How was your experience? They're constantly surveying their people. You talk about getting better testimonials. Well, you don't get good testimonials unless you're constantly surveying your relationship with the client. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we got to be doing that on a high level. Yeah.
This is great because it gives me an offer tomorrow.
Right.
And I can leverage that. And it seems a little bit artificial, only because it's not artificial. I grant it isn't. But I can now market my property to anybody who, yeah, I've already got one offer. And
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Exactly.
it used to be like, hey, look, I want
Right.
to be ethical, and so I'm not going to tell people I don't have an offer when I don't have one. But this is an offer, and I can use that on every one of my statements, especially my dogs.
Right.
There's one dog I got in Placentia, and yeah, I'm going to do that today.
Mhm.
And I'll have, and say, hey, look, we got an offer, okay. And then when anybody else comes in, everybody's like, oh, it's a higher wanted property.
Right.
Even though it's a dog.
Nobody wants to get off the fast moving train.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and the thing that's so cool about this is that you're in a situation where you get to control the pace, you get to control the relationship, but you're acting as the true advocate, the value provider to this relationship with your sphere of influence. Most likely, we said it's an 8 out of 10 chance it's coming from your sphere, right? But if you're showing up in your sphere world and you're not bringing them all the value, then they're going to go somewhere else. That's what it comes down to.
You know, I've been tracking this whole thing. That's why I'm really interested in this class. The iBuyer concept, the program, the whole model, is Gary has been looking at this for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And he's trying to disrupt the disruptors, or at least give us an alternative. So that concierge thing that we're interested in.
Yeah.
The iBuyer model, because I mean, he has, okay, I don't know if that's in place or when that's in place.
You mean Keller Offers?
Yes. Keller
Yeah,
Offers.
so Keller Offers is in place in 10 markets right now. They're looking to get to 50 markets as quickly as possible. The person, you can go and talk to them. Will they be in our market, Orange County, California, anytime soon? I don't think so. It's possible. I don't see it that way. Our market is a very advanced market.
Because the prices are so high.
Not because of pricing, it's because of the sophistication of the seller.
Got it.
Seller sophistication here is the highest in the nation. Sellers have the most options. So you guys do understand that there's 55,000 licensees in Orange County, right? 55,000 licensees in Orange County. So you talk about sphere of influence. Well, they're in my sphere. Well, yeah, and they're also in 6 other agent spheres too. Okay, and by the way, if you talk to any of your people that know people in Orange County, they know at least 5 or 6 agents, for sure. Now, the question is, would they use you over any other ones? Well, if you didn't ask them the question, then you won't know. But then you'll find out later. And then you wonder, it'll create a story, well, they didn't like me or whatever else. You know, there's all these other things that happen when you don't get the listing. But if you just go back and say, hey, why did I get the listing? Well, I didn't know. NAR did a study. They do it every single year. They do the same study. What's the likelihood that they would use the agent that sold them the home? The answer is over 70% likelihood. But the challenge is less than 10% of the time they can remember the name.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Let's say I,
Good job. 17 years, so we called me back.
There you go.
what if I don't have a listing appointment and I want a door knock with this? Is that something that I can get from Tony in advance and door
I don't
knock?
know.
And then get one and use that for the neighborhood since they usually have like the same kind of track model.
It's a great question.
And then say, okay, so, you know, I was down there, I was trying to talk to them about getting them an offer. This is a sample of, you know, what for that home, but I can get you one.
So let's pretend you're my door knock. I'm just gonna role play with you for fun, okay? So Emily,
I'm Emily and I'm Kelly.
yeah. So but I'm gonna roll reverse. I'm gonna be you, and you're the seller. So it's knock. Hi, I'm Emily from Keller Williams. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, you may not be interested in this, and you probably aren't, but just in case you are, if I could get you a cash offer on your home, where would you want to go in the next 30 to 60 days?
Boise,
Okay, fantastic. Well, perfect that we met. I could actually get you a cash offer in 24 hours. Would you be open to let me do that for you right now?
Sure.
Okay, fantastic. The way it works is that when I work with my partners, they pay me a small referral fee. And all I would need to do is have an agreement with you that if I was to bring you a cash offer, that it would be okay if I received the referral fee. Would that be okay?
Oh, that's it?
That's it. That's it.
I don't have to pay you anything?
Don't have to pay me anything. I'm just going to get a referral fee from them. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, fantastic. So what I'm going to do then is, can we just do this together right now on my iPad?
Sure.
Okay, boom. That's what I would do.
Okay, so you wouldn't even have the conversation if the seller's gonna pay you anything?
No, they're not. I mean, the point is that I'm there to generate. If you want to test this out, which is what I hear you saying, go test it out. Go to a home and just do that role play. Because what you're going to find is that you're going to build a relationship, and then you guys can both laugh at this ding dong investor who's paying 90% of a home that you want to bring them 100% for. Can I show you how to get the other 10%? Would that be okay? Now let's talk about how my compensation works. Let's talk about our marketing. Let's talk about our concierge service. Let's talk about all the other things that I do. Now that we've talked about that.
Got it.
It gives you an open door.
That's great.
It gives you an open door.
Except for Tony.
But do you see how the idea of talking about value, not just in value, but in offer, changes the whole, it changes everything, doesn't it? It's a whole different door knocking
Can
strategy.
you repeat that little?
It's on
piece?
Facebook.
Okay.
Yes. So in answer, we can try it. What do you want?
Just a little piece about where you asked me if you.
So would you mind, Emily, if I was to receive a referral from the cash investor that I brought to you, would that be okay? Not out of your pocket, but just that I would receive a referral. Would that be okay?
That would be fine.
Okay, perfect. So let's just go ahead and log in right now. We'll just get you an offer right now. Would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay, it takes 24 hours to generate, but I just have to ask you a few questions. Here's my iPad. This is your square footage. This is your size. Can I see your kitchen? You know, we just got to answer these questions. I need to take a few pictures. Do you mind if I take my iPad and take a few pictures and send them along? Okay, perfect. Boom. You know, we're done. There you go. It is on. It's actually on Facebook. Good. So I like the volume too. Thank you. So I was wanting to test the audio quality. That's got a really good mic on it. So I was hoping that the mic was going to be effective. So thank you for allowing me to confirm that. It's really there. Good job. Thank you so much, man. Is that helpful, Emily?
Yes.
So what we're doing is we're shifting the way that we look at things, right? And we're looking towards what it looks like to have more effective conversations with the people that we want to be in business with to help find listings. And remember, checking the box of a cash buyer allows you to have a deeper conversation, because now you can give them the reality, like you said, the dog properties, you give reality and say, this is your number. Okay, do you want more than that? Let me show you how, right? That's really what that's all about. And that's why Tony is actually trying to do a really good service for us, because he's showing you through data-driven technology is what he was using, that's an opportunity. Now, I'm not saying use Open Door. I'm not saying use Zillow. I'm not saying use anybody. I'm simply saying start having the conversation about, can I bring you a cash offer in the next 24 hours?
What was Tony's withdrawal percentage?
I don't know. Yeah, I think what he does is he allows you to take a full commission. So his referral fee could be 2-3%. So you might be able to do that. Yes.
You know, 2 weeks ago at Keller Williams training, they said create your own group of investors that becomes your own iBuyer. There's a lot of people who are business owners that are always looking for a deal. If you could bring them a deal saying, hey, would you be interested in 10% off of the market price of a home? Would you be interested in buying that? How many of my investors would want to, we create our own iBuyer.
Right.
Exactly. Your own buyer.
Well, and the same thing true for concierge, right? I mean, you created your own concierge. And I just want you guys to walk away from this meeting knowing that nobody's going to save you in this, okay? Yes, you're with the best brand in the world. Yes, you have Gary Keller backing us, but we can't wait for that. We have to go out and have an appointment tomorrow with the tools that are necessary for today to win the businesses, right? And so you need to understand we have to increase flexibility here, and we can't wait for Keller Offers to get to Southern California before we start dealing with this stuff. Our conversations have to change now. Does that make sense? It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. Everything that we do, because what's happening is that, did you see how easy that was? That was pretty freaking easy, okay? And that's going to be, and we can go through the Zillow offer process. I want to, just since I got that screen up, I want to show you what is being, Zillow has a lot of money. I just want you to know that. Oh, look at that. I didn't even notice it's tough. Isn't that funny? So I'm going to go to Zillow offers. So first of all, let's do something fun here. Anybody know an address of a non-KW listing in the area here between this $200,000 and $800,000 range? Anybody have any addresses of a non-KW? One that you lost that's just burned in your mind. I prefer active, but let's just look at listings close by here on Zillow for a second. I want to show you something. So look at what are they doing right off the bat? They're interviewing me. Am I okay with that? Yeah, because they got the best data. Isn't that interesting? So I'm going to pick this property just because. Contact agent right now, what you're going to start seeing here is that this button is no longer going to have this anymore. This button is going to have a call now button. So we're very, I just saw this in Whittier yesterday, but right now it still has the call now button because they're still selling premier placements for these folks. That's going to go away to a call now button very, very quickly. So I just want you to know that that's coming. The other reason why I was going on Zillow is because we're going to go to Zillow offers.
And what kind of percentage do they want for that?
What kind of percentage do they want for what?
For taking that lead? Or is that just?
It's a premium percentage. It's not cheap.
Or is that just for their agents?
It's only going to go to the highest performing agents, and the highest performing agents are the people that pick up the phone the most. And they're probably running. Or do you still do Zillow? Okay. So if there's people that are in that Zillow space, they're constantly testing you. And they have a team that's measuring you against all your competition. And basically, if you're not showing up the best, you don't get the leads at all. They just take you off. And they're bubbling it up to be only the best responsive teams, what they call Zillow E-teams. Their Zillow E-teams are the people that are getting leads. So here's a video. I don't know if the sound will play. Let's see. How do we play sound? You guys press button.
I know. Nobody does.
All right. Well, I must be set to TV.
Because you're in getting emails off that.
Okay, I give. So anyway, there's a quick video homework assignment, 90 seconds. This is the national. But you know what we can do? Let's put closed caption on. We'll pretend that we are hearing impaired, and we can all read silently. This is kind of fun. Just provide some basic information, see if you're eligible. They were living in Glendale, Arizona. pictures, posted, and that was it. Contacted in 2 days, sold my house in less than a week. We closed in 2 weeks. So I won't go, it's kind of painful to do this without the sound, but the point is that you're in a situation now where they're your competition, and you really want to look at what it looks like for you to have an effective relationship with these guys, right? It's co-opetition is what it comes down to. And you talk about the collaboration. One of the reasons why we all love Keller Williams so much is because of the fact that we're able to bring in, because technically I'm an Orange County listing agent, I'm a competitor to you guys, right? So why would I want to educate my competition? Well, number one, you most likely won't do anything with it. No, I'm just kidding. Like this guy over here. But number two, we are in a collaborative environment. I have gotten some of my best gold from being around people who are my quote competitors, because if you look towards abundance, no one person is going to win this business right now, unless you are backed by $15 billion, right? And even then, you've got situations like where other brokerages out there, I'm not going to name specific names, but last year, our iBuyer network, we were considering a lot of different options, and we talked to some of the biggest brands in America. We talked to Compass, we talked to Coldwell Banker, we talked to Century 21, we talked to all these other brokerages, and all the other brokerages do not have a really good handle on this conversation either. And I'm not saying Keller does and we don't. I'm simply saying that this is a conversation that needs to be had as a whole in our world. Okay, so don't hide under a rock. Is I guess the real point of this conversation. I want to make sure that we're making good progress here. It's top. We're going to take another break in a few minutes, but let's just see how we're doing on this list here. Yeah, go for it. How can you take advantage of your representing buyers? Good question. Well, first of all, what I would tell you is that I represent buyers, and I guess my question is, what do buyers want? They want good deals, right?
Yeah.
So what do you have access to find them? Good deals, right? You can find them good deals. You heard what Tony said about a good deal strategy, right? My point would be, if I'm representing a buyer, now specifically to a specific buyer, let's say that you have a buyer that's looking for that perfect property that's hard to find. Now you can go and you can start to knock on the door and use the script we did with Emily to say, would you mind if I wrote you an offer on this property? And by the way, I have a wholesale buyer that'll buy it for this, and I have a retail buyer that might pay more. Which one would you be open to? So for buyers, you're just talking about adding value to show them properties if it's a specific buyer. What kind of buyer are you thinking about?
I mean, just say we learned something new. I can go to anybody, homeowner, say, you want an offer?
Right. Yeah.
He's ready, family's not ready, but I have the door in.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm thinking how I can leverage.
Yes.
And I think that when buyers were looking.
Well, as Ron said, he said, look, he's got a pool of buyers. So let's say we're having a conversation with buyers. So by the way, you remember somebody said, oh, I hate investors. I love investors. I just need to figure out what kind of investor you are. Are you an investor that buys more than one home a year? Are you an investor that buys more than 10 a year? Whatever type of investor you are, I can work with you. I just need to figure out how it is that we can bring value to each other. And generally that requires a value exchange of some kind. If you want me to bring you my gold, my best gem and let you make a ton of money, then I'm expecting a little bit of value in return, is what it comes down to. So the point is that he would do that with his inner circle and create an iBuyer program with his inner circle, the Ron Arnold iBuyer program, right? So that way he would have the ability to support those people with that goal. So the question becomes, what type of that buyer is it, right? Because if there is, let's say they own 0 properties right now, they're first-time buyers. First-time buyers just need to find a property, right? So they don't necessarily, now if they're picky first-time buyers, that could be another scenario. Maybe they're picky luxury first-time buyers, that could be another scenario. I mean, all of those come into play, so you have to add the layers of who they are and then figure out how to approach them. Does that make sense? So what are your thoughts about this question, guys? Any other thoughts? So I'm just going to go through this really quickly before we wrap for this next break. Miracle source. So what's a miracle source? Sounds like we found every door in America is a miracle source, because anybody that's a homeowner, we would need to help them with that, right? I would just tell you that if you use the 0, 1, or more than one philosophy, you can knock on any door in America or call anybody and find out where they are. And on the zeros, that's the tenants, right? Tenants, you might need to then qualify with your lender. I don't spend a lot of time with future first-time buyers. I just get them over to my lender, let them do the work, and then the lender tells me when they're ready.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a really key ingredient. On the people that own a property, it's about, why are they moving? Up, down, sideways, what's happening? Getting some clarity on that. But your database better outmarket Zillow on those suckers if you ever want to get a paycheck from them. Right? And you better be sending them things of value at the time that they want them, not just when you want them. That's a really important conversation. And then on the one pluses, those people are your investors. So literally any door in America is going to help you with that miracle source. The question becomes, is there good leads to buy or bad leads to buy when it comes to sellers? Is there any lead sources that are out there that haven't been discovered yet when it comes to sellers? And the vast majority of these lead sources are going up into the ether of these iBuyers. And if you are offering a free home valuation, you're falling one short of what everybody else is doing at this point. It's not about a free home valuation. It's about bring me an offer that they can accept right now. That's where your game is going to be leveled up. Does that make sense? That's really what we're talking about here. So value to the seller is bring me an offer, right? I mean, we talked about that. We want bring me an offer. That is really an easy way to enter a conversation. Now they say, I don't like your offer. Well, it's not mine, so you don't pick on me. It's somebody else's offer. By the way, if you are an investor like me, many times when I represent myself, there's pros and cons to me representing myself as the buyer versus representing somebody else as the investor. So in my family, we have an investor, and we also have me being an investor. So I can play either card if I want you, depending on the situation. And you want to understand the pros and cons of that as well. So value to the seller. What other things have we talked about in terms of value to the seller? Let's just recap before we wrap up in 2 minutes here. Value to the seller. What are we doing now that we're bringing in offers to this conversation?
You're helping them be able to move quicker and make a decision.
Aren't we debunking the entire myths about what's out there in the iBuyer world as well? Aren't we running to the conversation that that's going to happen to them? Because remember, who here has testimonials on Zillow? Anybody? You have testimonials on Zillow? I have testimonials on Zillow. I got about 40 or 50 of them. Do you have them? 155. All of those are being marketed with offers now that you've given them all this data. So you've given, just like I have, tons of data to Zillow, and they are marketing to your testimonial clients with your data.
Right.
Isn't that amazing? And they did that because they're the best website to put your things on there. Guess where I don't put my testimonials as much anymore? Zillow. Yeah, I put them on Yelp. I put them on Google. I put them on Nextdoor. But who's to say any of those aren't going to flip on us? They will. When they see the smell of the commission, they're going to flip, right? If they can turn it into a monetization, they're going to flip. So it's better that you actually are building your own testimonial site on that you can then use search engine optimization for. Yeah.
I have a quick question. You know how you said the thing of the past was what's your home value, the
Yeah.
landing pages?
Uh-huh.
Is there a company that's created a landing page that we could use where it would say like, I want an offer?
Yes, there's a number of those. I'd like to take that into a task for me. Would you be willing to send me a text to this number, and I will promise to get to you guys. Text me this number and say send me the vendors that you use for the offer site. I don't have them handy right now, but we're actually in partnership with several of them, and I don't know that I have a winner yet, so I need about a week on that.
Okay.
But text me there, and I will send you some referrals to people that are building home value or home offer funnels for agents.
Okay, perfect.
And it's a really important conversation to have for sure. And then if you guys want to, I can pass around a sheet of paper and I can go proactive on that. If we grab a piece of paper here, and you guys can put your contact information down, and I'll forward it to you. Here's a sheet. Just making that quick sign-in sheet. Okay, so have we talked about efficient time management?
Yeah.
Okay, what are you learning about time management at this point, as far as it relates to sellers?
That it's you're giving them an opportunity to pick a time that they want to close.
Yeah.
Because that's a feature that they're offering with investors is pick a day when you want to close escrow.
Right.
It's a much shorter time window if they choose to, so they don't have to be on the market forever.
Right.
So there's a lot of efficient time for the seller as
Yeah.
a benefit.
Yeah, so if by the way, that's efficient time management for the seller, but what about for you?
Oh, we move on to the next one.
Right, yeah, so you also as the agent, you have this efficiency that's associated to it because now here's the thing I'm not telling you, you need to go out and implement all this stuff and only work in this cash buyer market. I'm not saying that, I'm simply saying that you guys had to add as many tools as you can to your arsenal at this point, because this is what the world will be like. And I'm just giving you a little picture of what it looks like in Phoenix right now. It's mayhem. Agent count is dropping, people are scared, agents are freaking out because they're losing business. I have friends of mine who have big businesses in Phoenix market, and their business in their farms are down 50% because Opendoor and Zillow are buying all their deals before they get to list them. Okay, so if you're a farmer, this is a big problem for you. Wow. Because your listings will be taken away from you, especially if you're a farmer in the bell curve. The easiest thing to do is to move out of the bell curve and go higher priced, and you'll be okay. You need to move up your neighborhoods, right? Get above that 800,000. Yeah.
Zillow and Redfin, all this, are they selling properties back in the market, bring it back?
Yeah, they put them right back on the market
With their name or they use
with their name, or their Zillow preferred agent in their area. So in Atlanta, as an example, Atlanta just switched over. They went from Premier Agents to Zillow Flex, and they have a Zillow Premier agent in Atlanta that was then elevated to become a Zillow broker. And the Zillow, what they do is they pick one independent, one big brand, and then one team, usually is what they do. And then they share the business amongst that. A friend of mine, a gentleman named Chris Lindahl in Minneapolis, has about 500 active listings from Zillow right now. 500.
are the commission?
What do you think? Why would Zillow, I mean, Zillow has 500 listings to give to anybody that's, what do you think you're gonna make on them? You become their employee. Now there's benefits, but what's so funny is that he was actually putting his own signs in the ground in front of him with his own phone numbers. They took him away. They said, you can't do that. All the sign calls have to come back through us.
They control everything.
They control everything. They will control everything ultimately, because that's what they're looking to do. It's coming, you guys.
I have a feeling that they will.
So should we start looking for a new career change?
Uber and pizza, baby. You can I'm telling you.
In fancy cars, right?
That's right.
It seems like they're using agents and brokers wherever they need them. But now, if they use so much for your services or bringing so much value, we don't have to.
Yeah. Well, remember, Zillow was built by us, you guys. We said we don't have a national MLS, so let's let Zillow aggregate all of our listings, and then they turn into the beast that they are. Not saying it's good or bad. They're a really smart business model. I love Zillow. I think they're phenomenal organizations, people. They just are out to get what you think that you are doing now, but you need to be thinking about what you're not doing now. You need to think about what you're going to be doing 5 years from now.
I think you're gonna know, like,
Right. Hey Alexa, I need to sell my house. What's the price?
So what was Coldwell Banker's response, like the agents to that?
They love it. It's an retention tool for them.
At the 40% referral?
Yeah, they still love it. Remember, Coldwell Banker agents are used to paying through Cartus and through all the other places. They're used to paying 40 and 50% for the return.
21, because they were all owned by the same, it was NRT at one time, I don't know, still there now.
Yeah, NRG is still part of it. But I, like I said, I met with some of the folks that are part of that organization. There's 2,200 Century 21 brokerages. 2,200 of them. 2,000 of the 2,200 aren't breaking even right now. And the average age of a Century 21 broker, if I recall this correctly, is in mid-60s. Yeah. And the biggest challenge that Century 21 is having is that they're people that are wanting the generation they want to pass it down to. None of the kids want to be in the business. So the fact is that the Century 21s that, I'm going to build this business that's passed downable, it's no longer a generational asset for them. So the brokerage business is broken, okay, in that model. So just understand that, if you're aspiring to be in that, and I'm not picking on Century 21, I'm just giving you evidential statements based on what I've done, limited research. So I just want you to understand that things are changing, and yes, you need to be thinking about how am I going to do more units for less commission. You need to be thinking about that. You also need to be thinking about how do I get signs in the ground to get signs in the ground. That's what it is. And then how do I rally around those to make sure that they are effective? You talk about effective time management. It's really about preparing traditional sellers for what's coming at them as well. Because if you're the person that brought them this news first, if you brought them this iBuyer news first, aren't they gonna honor that relationship a little bit more? To say, well, you told me it was coming in, yes, I could get a 92% offer, but I'd love to sell it for 100%, and I'm glad to pay you a little bit less percentage, but I still wanna be in business with you. And you're my family member, so I need a cut on that commission. That's how it works, right?
Yep,
Um,
absolutely.
So just know it's coming, okay? We're trying to take a break here. Let's just draw a line right here. We'll come back after the break. We're gonna take a 5-minute break, and then we're gonna wrap up for the home stretch.
Yep.
I'm gonna hit the restroom real quick. The camera.
Yeah, it's like this one. Sorry, residents.
Yeah, man. Good idea.
Coffee's right here.
This is that we're in. It's just a constant. Yeah, this just goes back to what we were talking about the other day. Just showing up. This is awesome.
Yeah, you bet, brother. Absolutely. I'm excited for it.
Which office are you from?
I hang my license at Mission Viejo.
Water?
I got my cup right here. Matter of fact, I think I'll refill. Okay, so we're back, and I'm getting started because I know we're short on time. I have a graphic that I want to put up for you real quickly. I'm sure you guys have never seen this before. You guys, anybody know what this is? Yeah, so this is from the book, Millionaire Real Estate Agent, page 192. And I think the thing that I want you to understand is that this entire conversation that we're having, it's really about leads, right? You have a tremendous number of leads in your phone. So the question is, are you bringing them the value that they need right now? And you know, basically people that fall into these categories, you know people at 0, 1, or 1+. have you properly categorized your people to put them in those categories? Are they current or future homeowners, or do they own more than one property? And what level of value are you bringing to them right now? And a CRM is a critical aspect to that. So command is a phenomenal way to bring this along. You don't have a shortage of leads because you have a bunch of people in your case. We already know that there's an 80% chance that your business is going to come from Sphere. So we have to figure out, how do we take the Sphere conversation and we turn it into a powerful conversation? Well, it's just like the Emily dialogue that we had at the door. Why couldn't we have that on the phone? Same exact conversation. Why couldn't we say, hey, Emily, I know you're probably really curious. There's a lot of things going on in our marketplace. Just for fun, I know we're friends, would it be okay if I sent you a cash offer on your home? Would that be okay?
What's more on the do-not call list? That's why I used it for.
That you're friends?
Oh, you're talking Sphere now.
Yeah, I'm talking Sphere. Yeah, I'm talking Sphere events. The people that you know, that know, like, and trust you, that may do business with you. Hey, Herb, would you mind if I brought you a cash offer on your home just for fun? I'm just testing out some new systems. I want to see if I might be pretty.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Imagine what kind of conversation that could spark up. You know what? It's so funny you're calling me right now, Devin, because I actually was thinking about selling my home. We're going to be retiring in a couple of years. We're not sure if it's going to be Phoenix, Vegas, or Boise, but we're really kind of considering. I really would love to know. So let me ask you a question, Herb. That if you knew that you could get X for your home, would you be ready to go, or is it based on something else? Oh, the kid's got to graduate from school, blah, blah, blah. Some other life event that happens. Now I have a deeper relationship with the timing, about knowing, because what did I do? I brought him a piece of value up front. That's all.
It's true.
That's what it comes down to. Does that make sense?
I know someone right now.
There you go. And because you're willing to have the conversation, right? That's what it comes down to. So
It would be curious to see, because it's a very unique home, right?
Yeah.
In the area here.
Yeah, well then
He
go ahead and do that.
definitely be open to it. Yeah.
So in the old model, and I'm not picking on this curriculum, I love this curriculum, taught it for many years, but in the old model, we had this whole concept of ready, willing, and able.
Yeah.
And I want to challenge your thinking on this, that you don't know when they're going to go on to Open Door and start uploading pictures. So you really don't know.
No.
So I would be careful about over-qualifying your sellers at this point. I'd be real careful about that. Ron, I know you do 2-step appointments all the time, or 3-step or 5-step, however many steps. My recommendation is you keep your appointments much shorter. You get in there concisely and you touch them and you pop by them, if you will, from a Buffini term, and you just show up and bring some value. But what if the value you brought was, hey, here's an offer for one of my investors, just so you know, if you ever want to sell, at least you know that you can get this much for it.
The concern that I have in regards to doing something like that is that if the house is, I mean, it just seems to me that the model would more or less be for a property that maybe is in more disrepair rather than something that's.
That goes back to his word,
Now,
situation.
remember, the terminology in the industry of iBuyers is convenience. There are many, many sellers who will choose that own just a single home, just one home, that will choose convenience over calling you to list, because they would rather not have the people traipsing through their home. They don't want to have to deal with the open houses. They don't even want to deal with you.
But you're absolutely right, because I have 2 listings where they were like, I just want private showings only. I don't want to deal with open houses. I don't want.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna try it because I got someone that she's on that edge.
Good.
I'm gonna try it. I'll let you know.
Well, remember, these
I'm
iBuyer
curious.
offers are not retail offers, which gives you the ability to have the other conversation.
Mhm.
Okay, so that you're not talking about anything that you just got to add more tools to your tool belt. Okay, this is about adding tools to the tool belt. It's tool time, right? So we got to put in more tools in the belt. Is really what it comes down to, and that's really what we're talking about here. So pre-qualifying, highly recommend that the pre-qualification sounds like this. Do you own a home? When can I come by? Right? Because when you get in front of them, you can have a deeper conversation about any direction you want to go. But my recommendation what I'm recommending to all the people that I know that are in the real estate business right now is to reconnect face-to-face at their door for this conversation. Because that's where you're going to have the opportunity. Yeah.
How would you handle the situation where you go to somebody and say, oh, I like the offer. You go over with them.
Yeah.
And then say, oh, your offer is 500, I never opened, but I did. Or
Open Door doesn't do that. They
They
don't,
go around and do
yeah,
that.
no, but different iBuyers will give different prices for sure. In Phoenix, what happens is, we actually teach agents in Phoenix to go ahead and aggregate the offers and say, here's your offer from Zillow, here's your offer from Open Door, here's your offer from OfferPad.
You do, it, right?
We do that
As
work,
an agent.
yeah, as an agent,
So if they go back, the sellers will go back and try to do on their own. what's gonna happen?
same price. It'll be the same price.
Same price.
As a matter of fact, there is integrity in that relationship if you're using the referral side of their businesses. All of the businesses are honoring the agent's integrity at the moment. I don't know if that's gonna stay that way, but they're offering integrity in the relationship. So like, for instance, if you wanna send a referral to Open Door right now on that listing, you just email over referrals@opendoor.com and they sign a referral agreement with you for 1%. So they will do that with you with full legitimacy now.
I mean, I can just go in and hire a team, and their job is just do all the listing and form,
No,
put an offer.
no,
below
you get it
all the
signed
iBuyers.
first,
Yeah.
No, I got it.
because
Yeah.
if you don't,
You
they
cannot
can
go
use
back.
it in. from-
Oh, no,
Another
You gotta
agent
get
can
the
go
list.
back.
any agent, any seller, yeah, you're not gonna get, you don't have exclusive right to sell that property just because you put it in your system.
No, I mean, the price is locked for everybody.
The price is locked, but
Sign
who sources the deal based on who shows up to the deal.
I
You need to get the seller to sign that they're willing to do that. When we did the role play, there was a signature involved, which is, hey, would you mind being loyal to me during this process while I get you the offer? Any
I
of
don't
them.
like that number.
Yeah. The offer that he has right now, he's protected by the listing contract that he has in place. Open Door can't go around him. Does that make sense? Now, let me bring the conversation up here. So you guys want to tell,
He's not understanding, the process, so
let's break it down.
So what we were chatting on the side was basically, you got the listing, you got the signature, and he says you go over there and you get the offer pad and you use Zillow offers and all that stuff.
Right.
And then I was telling him, then you go back and share that information with them once you have the listing signed.
Yeah, so first of all, there's a conversation, right? The conversation is, yes, I want an offer, right? That conversation results into a let's call it a short-term listing contract. A short-term listing contract. That short-term listing contract could have your standard language on it, because it may ultimately turn into a long-term listing contract. Then you go out and you solicit the offers. You go get your offers from any iBuyers that you want to. You can go to Tony, you can go to Zillow, you can go to OfferPad, you can go to all of them. You can go to Redfin, you can go to all of them, as long as you have those relationships in place, because you're protected by that short-term listing contract. Does that make sense?
It's only like 3 or 5 days.
Yeah, so you just say, hey, seller, is it okay if I shop you, if I get you, bring you multiple offers on your property? I just need 3 days to do that, right?
That was my next question.
Which is what?
If you can go to the different,
Yeah, of course, you want to aggregate them up. You want to say, here's your offer from Zillow, here's your offer from Redfin, here's your offer. You want to provide that value because that's the value, that you're looking to
so
provide.
that's how you can boost your listing maybe for a week or a month or something.
Or 3 days.
3 days.
Yeah, and by the way, I will be glad to give you the right to cancel at any time for any reason. Because we're just a handshake away from not having a deal anyway, so I'll just let you cancel at any time for any reason. Can I give you a no obligation listing for 3? Would you sign a no obligation listing for 3 days while I go shop and find you the best possible cash offer you get? Sure. Then you go out and get the offers, then you present the offers, right?
You're welcome.
Then you present the offers, and then you go through that process from there.
So in this scenario, we're not asking for
That's,
listing agents, only the sellers. should either
Right, so the
provide-
short-term listing contract can be made in a bunch of different formats. It can be made in a part 1, part 2. It depends how deep you're going with the conversation, right? Part 1 is, hey, I'm just gonna bring you offers, no fee. Part 2 is, if you want, I'll do a no frills. It's a discount. Part 3 could be, here's the full service, and now you're talking about the different options that you have, right? So you can start to stack the listing contract with all that, so you now build the better mousetrap of a listing contract that shows them. By the way, if you put that it's cancelable at any time for any reason, then they're going to be more willing to go through the entire process. My point is that there's a domino effect. You can see I drew them like dominoes that need to be knocked down, because you were talking about, Ken was talking about, what's the motivation of the seller? The seller's motivation is sometimes unknown until they have their offer. Have you ever seen, Ron, where they don't make a move until they know their number? And they will spend 30 or 45 days in limbo, even though you're telling them you're going to approximately get this much money. They're still staying in limbo because they don't really know, because they're $5,000 one way or the other whether they're going to do this or that, right? So it's critical that you start to realize that these dominoes need to be in place. Now, this is a process that we're perfecting more and more together. So I want you guys to feedback to me, and I know we took the sheet around here, so I'm gonna communicate with you guys about what's going on. I want you to feedback to me about how it's going. I want to start iterating with you about how we can help each other learn from these experiences. Like I said, we did 2 of these in Boise this week, and we got some great feedback. As a matter of fact, both of them said, "Thank you for that low ball offer from that unnamed investor. We want to go the retail process," right? Which is still getting you the listing, which they didn't have before, and this was through a calling night that we had on Tuesday night in Boise.
The question I have is, did those 2 agents start on the phone?
On
Or
the
did they
phone.
start knocking?
They're on the phone.
Because-
We've done it knocking as
Because
well.
Red X and all those sites, 70% are on the do not call list, so that's why I asked.
Yeah, well, and again, I will tell you, neighborhood phone numbers are easier to get than expireds and FSBO. So you gotta figure out which services that you wanna use for that. Neighborhood numbers here, I will tell you, the number one service that we value the most as an organization that does this nationwide is Cole Realty Resource. Cole Realty Resource has decent,
I've asked for it, and what I get back, so I asked for like an area of 500, I get like 15.
Right.
Because the rest are all on the do not call list.
right. Well, you gotta understand, calling is passe right now. One of the things that I would encourage you to consider is that texting is where it's at.
You can't text if they're on the do not call list,
Correct. Right, I understand.
so you're still back down to your
So then what are you gonna do?
door knob.
Or quit?
I'm gonna quit.
That's basically.
Why would you not door knock? people?
Yeah, exactly. My question, we were talking, I was teasing you because earlier you were saying, well, we want to have to go get another job. The point is that at the end of the day, we got to do what we got to do, right? And when you're going, by the way, once somebody says, yes, I want you to call me, are they on the do not call list? No. So there you go.
To go back to my question.
Yeah.
When you go in, let's say you were in
You got the short-term listing contract, you started to receive the offers.
the, the 0, right? You
Right.
decided not to charge. And then you come back in 2 days and say, here's the offer, 0.
Right, uh-huh,
And this homeowner looks at it and say, okay, thank you, I'll let you know.
right.
And then 3 days pass by.
What's your protection with those companies?
No, 3 days pass by, right?
Yeah.
And then homeowner say, oh, I can have to sell it. And then he started going back, trying to go to all the open doors. Do I have any protection? Do I have anything at this time?
Read the contracts. The answer is probably not a lot. But the point is that they may have done it anyway, and if they're that kind of a person, then you probably don't have the integrity anyway, and you probably didn't even want to do business with them.
Yeah, no, sometimes, people are just, oh, I never thought of it, but yeah, give me a number.
Right, that's why you gotta understand, this flag is gonna get waved by these guys who are spending billions on advertising. Just because you're waving the flag differently, there's now a face to the name, and if you have integrity and they have integrity, then you're gonna be okay. But for the non-integrity person,
You don't lose anything you don't have.
right, exactly. You can never lose what you don't have.
I would just, at the time, say, you don't like, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll work with you.
Well, what you've done by then is you've gotten the motivation. The challenge that I find with most listing clients is that they haven't found motivation. What you're doing is you're poking at something and you're not clear on what their motivation is. When you start to bring them an offer, all of a sudden motivation shows up. So I'm just gonna flip through a few more slides here, just to kind of give you an idea. This model in the 2.0 MREA model is even shifting a little bit. Capture, connect, cultivate, and close. What I want you to understand is that this 4-step process has been a proven process for literally the most successful company in the world in real estate, which is Keller Williams. And Gary, when he put this together, he basically laid out a very quick game plan. The capture has already been done by you and every other one of these people. You saw how much data they had as we went through the open door process, right? So all the capturing is done. The question is, are you capturing them to your command, to your CRM, to whatever tool you're using? And then how are you connecting with them? And again, you just said, hey, we can't call them as much. It depends on whether you have that relationship in place. If you met at the gas station, you probably can't call them, right? So networking is still a great strategy. Then you cultivate them. The cultivation is going to be different because you might have to say, let me update you on your offer in 30 days. And I'll become your sole point of letting you know what your property's worth with an updated offer, because it sounds like you're not ready yet. Now, I wouldn't necessarily just bring them an offer until I knew why they were ready or when they wanted to move, because we might say, hey, you know what, let me check back with you in 30 days so you have an up-to-the-minute offer rather than because these offers expire very quickly. Matter of fact, what happens is if you look at some of these systems, What they're saying is, here's your offer today. If you accept it tomorrow, it's this. If you accept it the next day, it's this. If you accept it the next day, it's this. They're actually timing out the offer with lower pricing over time because they want to take. CarMax does the same thing. They give you a 7-day offer and they give you a 3-day price. So you get different pricing for different lengths of time if you want to hold on.
Can you help us make a list of all the other buyers we should contact?
Yeah, we'll what we'll do is we'll put together something there and I'll absolutely help you do that. You bet.
There should be like 3, 4.
Well, we can do it right now, real simple. OfferPad, Redfin, Open Door, Zillow. Those are the big 4 right now. Knock.com would be 5th. Knock.com. Those are the majors. There's more coming out all the time, but those are the most, really the ones you want to pay attention to are not everyone that's coming out, but the ones that have to come out that are coming out with billions.
Right.
The ones that are funded are the ones you want to pay attention to. The ones that are the next realtor's great idea, you probably just want to go ahead and keep moving down your path.
There's another one called Juspinas, which if you go on to those email flyers, they give you a 2% referral.
There you go. So the challenge is follow the money. Anytime I'm doing due diligence on any of these things, I'm looking for how big is their checkbook, because then I understand where they are. Then I also say, do any of my friends use this? My friends being the top agents at Keller Williams. And then if my friends are using it and they got money, then I'm probably going to go deeper with that. Okay. But just because some guy has a great idea on a lunch napkin doesn't mean that's the best thing you should be following.
They break that down.
So successful lead conversion outcomes. See this? Get an appointment or get a referral. What we're really trying to focus on here, guys, is that this is just another tool in your bag of tricks to have a deeper conversation about motivation. That's what it comes down to. It's a critical component of all that. So I'm going to flip through a bunch of these because we're going to move very quickly. Now we're talking about pre-listing. The thing I wanted to share on pre-listing is that a pre-listing package is also, in my opinion, very passive. It's something that needs to be done. I will tell you that I'm like 80% non-pre-listing in my mind. I see agents that have success with it, but I want to have the conversation that's most important. And I don't want them to discount me because my package doesn't smell right, look right, taste right, whatever. So I want to challenge you to consider doing some A/B testing on whether you should or shouldn't use a pre-listing package. So just because you don't have one doesn't mean you shouldn't. Just because you do have one doesn't mean you should. You got to figure out what's most effective for each of those individual situations. Just because the way you did it last year was the way you did it last year doesn't mean it's the way you need to do it for this year or next year. Okay. And you got to be testing, A/B testing. You got to test. I'm going to do it this way with this seller. I'm going to do it this way with this seller. See what the difference is. Especially if you're doing it within their personality traits. If you're using the DISC, the DISC, and you're saying, well, this driver just wants to get to the bottom line, so therefore I'm not going to send a pre-listing. Then you send one with the pre-listing and you see the feedback from both. That's what we got to do. We got to iterate like the big companies are doing. We got to test and receive feedback and then understand the feedback. We also got to eliminate our own baggage so we're not putting our stuff in there and say, well, my picture's really great, so it's got to go on everything. Whatever it is, just understand that there's a whole bunch of factors inside of that. So your unique selling proposition, I think the thing that I want to challenge you on here is on your USP, we talked about bringing value to the seller. You really want to make sure that you're clear on why you show up to people. So in my world, as a 5 Doors member of the organization of the 5 Doors, person who founded the company with my partners, our mission statement is to build generational wealth for real estate. That's very easy to translate to every conversation because I can go from 0 to 1 to 1+ with any dialogue and help people get crystal clear on that. I also, from my personal life, the work that I've done for me is that I know that my value to me, my number one life value is to help people on their journey. So when I'm clear about helping people on their journey and I'm clear about generational wealth, then you and I can have a conversation about almost anything and I can help you figure out whether that's in my path or not. Right? So that's why I'm also a coach. That's why I'm an instructor. That's why I'm a realtor. That's why I'm an investor. That's why I'm a contractor. That's why I do all these other things because I want to help people on their journey. Make sense? Okay. So as we go into the listing consultation itself, again, I am challenging you that the only word to really remember here is rapport. That's the only thing you need to focus on here is rapport. Rapport gives you the ability to go deeper with that person to help figure out what they really want. That's what it comes down to. That's what we're really talking about here.
That's a rapport question.
Sure.
So in a listing appointment, you walk in or you contacting the seller, you walk in 3 offers or 4 offers.
Yeah.
And you know that those numbers will change once they actually hit.
Yeah.
How do you work around that? Because then your report, you're like, well, you brought 5 hours, but none of them stick to the numbers. Now you're telling me that I have this and this in my house, you know, so you gotta do some work up front, you gotta be careful, you gotta.
Well, what I will tell you, so let's just go further than that. So let's say you had that conversation and I'm gonna take over the conversation, I'm gonna role play it back to you. What I hear you saying is that you understand that these numbers will change, correct? Okay, so what we need to figure out is what is the right time for you guys to move on to Nevada? Because that's where you're headed, right? So would you like to move before or after Christmas? Would you like to move before or after Halloween? Before or after Thanksgiving? I mean, those are your options. If you could wave a magic wand, when would you like to be there? We're back to motivation.
Right, just right, I'm ready to sell my home now.
Okay, and where are you headed?
Next week, I gotta go to Nevada.
Okay, do you have a place there or do you need to find one?
We already bought the home.
Fantastic.
Brand new home.
Okay.
I'm ready to go now, but I want to know this, the numbers you gave me, the 5 offers.
Uh-huh.
Which one should I pick? You know.
If I'm you, I'm picking the highest. I don't know about you.
Right, so I mean,
That one,
as an agent, I'm since highest guy most likely will change it because I know these people and them. You know, that's
yeah.
one of my-
So let me caution you, Mr. Seller, about the option that an investor has, and that option is that when they come and do their physical inspection, they can change their number.
I say, well, get the number on the top.
Okay, I love that idea. So here's how we do that. We accept the offer and we get them to come in and then we'll talk. How does that sound? Right? We're just taking them on the journey. We're just happy to be one step further down the road. But if you've never done it before, it's hard to take them down the road. So my recommendation is go view an open door listing, go do the other things that are necessary to get into that mode. So you're not actually asking what if questions, you actually have experienced it. Because experience is the best teacher as long as it's not your own.
You see, the cash offer concept is not.
Right.
It's been out there. I've definitely been time. When I get a cash offer, it's always a little bit more.
Right.
And you always get cautious because, okay, here's a company name on it.
Yeah,
For an offer.
right. Absolutely.
So as an agent, when I present it to my seller, I'm like a little more cautious than somebody making a full price offer.
Right.
FHA loan and whatnot.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
more inclined to get a high offer.
I agree.
So this caution, I mean, you know, the report.
Right.
If you start saying, oh, this is good, go for it, whatever reason.
Yeah.
The person doesn't come through, 15 days, I would.
It's literally the difference between this and this. I mean, if I'm next to you and we're reviewing the offer together, now we're on the same team. If I'm across from you and we're reviewing the offer in this way, we're possibly opposing each other. And the point is that in rapport, we're going to be next to each other reviewing the offer together. You see that? And I think the biggest challenge you've got is that you got to be crystal clear about who you're being in that. Because if you're being the person that's really pushing them to retail, then you've got a dog in the hunt and they're going to sniff that out. Right? Because you want the more commission, et cetera.
What I do is with the sellers, I say, let's create a strategy.
Right.
This offer is coming up, this will be, doesn't come through, go with this. Or you can just pick this guy.
Right.
It's on, you know.
Yeah, creating a strategy is what it's all about. That's my point, though, is that rapport is your biggest opportunity.
Could you ever counter back to a investor's offer? So if I get open door and I
Of course you
take it to
can.
my seller, and my seller says, I want, I don't know,
5,000.
5,000 more.
Yeah.
I can go back to open door and say,
Technically, you could. Whether they'll operate with you in that way in our other markets, we haven't seen them effective in that.
Okay.
They're, generally speaking, there's so much data and they're so data driven that they're not
So
really.
no best and high. It's
They're
like,
they're
this
black
is
and
it.
white.
They're very black and white. That's kind of what we've experienced so far. I think you're going to see increased flexibility by these guys as well because they got to buy deals. They got to turn the money. So you're going to see increased flexibility all the way across the board.
I'm just curious.
So there's a bunch of things we want to do in the process of getting together on one of these things. But the bottom line is that the more you're ready, the more flexible you are, the more easy that you are to be able to show up and understand their journey and be along with them on it, versus competing for this is the only way to do it. You know that's really what this comes down to. What's that?
Taking your client to the jury.
Yeah.
Then start feeling it, start feeling like you know a lot about what you're saying.
Right.
But it may not come through and you get pros and cons.
Right.
So this guy has good reputation, good offers, you know, all of that is at the end, by the way, just go 6% outside.
Right. Exactly. But you had to check those boxes along the way to get there with them, and you've never been opposed to them because you're bringing them the highest value. That's what it comes down to. All right, so we're getting close. I just wanted to go through this servicing. I don't know that there's much to talk about on servicing because I think the name of the game at this point is getting listed. But if you want to talk about servicing, we can. I just want to make sure we're going through some of the slides. Bottom line is servicing is about communicating and bringing value, and you better have leverage if you're going to start taking on some listings. But I want to make sure that you know that servicing is a big deal, and yet let's go get some more listings and then make it a problem, right? Because you can always find resources to help you service a listing once you have the listing. Right now, when I'm looking at on the board here, you guys need some more listings. That's what I'm saying. So marketing, same thing. Offer and negotiation. Offers and negotiation. Do you see how you're already putting yourself in a friendly position by talking about let's see what the market can get you for a property when you're talking about a cash offer? It completely disables the whole conversation about that's your price and it's because you gave me the price, I'm not going to hire you because that's the price. You no longer have that conversation. That conversation is completely gone because it's not about your price. It's about what this investor is willing to pay, right? So we know that if this investor is willing to pay this and this investor is willing to pay this, then we also know that your home's probably worth a little bit more than that. Can we agree to price it properly, right? And then all of a sudden, all these conversations about offers and negotiations are predetermined by how you showed up at the beginning. You see that? It's pretty interesting, right? And again, there's a bunch of ways that we can talk about how you negotiate. The bottom line is that, as you know, we have a mantra here of win-win or no deal. No buyer is going to buy a property that isn't effective for them. If they're an iBuyer, they need to make profit. If they're a retail buyer, then they probably just want to enjoy the home. So we need to figure out what kind of buyer they need. If you're speaking to the seller about that in advance of the seller, then you're going to be in a position where you can help them on their journey, right? And they're going to understand the difference between the two. I just want to make sure we're covering the contract to close and post close. There's a lot of things you got to do once you get an offer and once you're in the process. That's why you have an office TC or a team TC because they're going to help you with all that. Yep. All right, so I want to go to the last part of this. This is that graph that we were talking about before, right? So almost 70% would use or recommend a listing agent again. Right there. How many times seller recommended the agent? None. 1, 2, 3, 4. The challenge is in the NER study, which is a different graph, less than 10% of the time, the agent that sold the home is actually the agent that gets the new listing because of communication, because of not following it. So it's pretty critical. Here's a bunch of ways to touch people. I would recommend right now text, put that at the highest. That's not even on this list. Text needs to be on the list as the number one way to touch people. Yeah, please do. Absolutely. All right, it's going to be time for, we're going to wrap up with some ahas and then we're going to cross off some more on the list here. I'm sorry, I'm going back. Sorry, forgive me.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to do ahas right here, and then obviously we're going to wrap. Basically, the thing that I would just ask you guys to consider is, first of all, did I meet your goals here? Okay, so we got to this point, helping people make a decision. With this kind of information, are we helping them make a decision? Yeah. Better listing presentation, more confidence. Can you have a lot more confidence when you know what the price is?
Yes.
I mean, when you know what the price is, how much easier is that for you? Especially when you didn't have to determine the price. That's the thing that Tony was trying to say earlier, is that you could pick on his number as a tool for getting you a conversation about what the price really should be. Confidence a lot of times doesn't have to do with the presentation, because if there is no price, then what else is there? You know the 3 P's of real estate, right? Put a sign in the ground, put in the MLS and pray. And that's what most agents do, but we do the 4th and 5th P. You know what those are?
Prospect and
price right. Yeah.
But even if they're too far out, that brings them back in too.
Exactly. It's a phenomenal thing for us that are willing to adapt and add the tool and put it in there. Okay. Getting on. I don't know what that was. Anybody?
Okay, I think
Getting more.
presentation.
Getting more. Okay, getting more. Yeah. So can you see how this tool, this whole meeting is about getting you more opportunities, right? Managing expectations and promises. The thing that we had a really deep conversation in front here about is the idea that we are coming alongside. And no, we can't predict the outcome of what an iBuyer is going to do. But if we're in integrity and we're helping them on their journey, then we're gonna be effective, right? Setting boundaries. What was the thought there? Did we cover that?
That was,
Oh, we were
when
talking
Jeff was
about,
calling late
you
at
were
night.
being 24/7.
Yeah, okay, so I mean, just in general, what you gotta do is set boundaries, right? I mean, it's really just a function of that, so I think, I don't know, if we need to go much more there. Value matching, I think value matching is really just figuring out that your customer service scale needs to go like this, and you need to have options for people all the way along the way. Right, when we talked about on the next sheet, how to have just a referral versus these other options, that's really getting clear on that. And then, how do you outsell Zillow or differentiate yourself from Zillow? You just bring more than what Zillow can bring.
Exactly. Educate yourself.
Bring more than what Zillow can bring. Zillow can only bring the Zillow offer, right? But the challenge is Zillow offer is going to come to them at the right time because they're constantly interfacing with Zillow. So you got to figure out how do you out nurture them. Is what it comes down to. And that is about touching them effectively on the methods and the communications they want with the information they want at that time. It's also not feeding the beast, right? Don't put your testimonials up there to get it taken away so that they then know when to nurture your people. Testimonials, we talked about a bunch of different phases of testimony. Any other further questions on that? Okay, then the last thing is discounting commissions. I would just tell you guys on discounting commissions, I've never lost a listing that I wanted on commission. I've never lost a listing that I wanted on commission. I've really been purposeful about making sure that if I want that listing, I will take it, and I'll take it whenever I need to take it up. And I just want you to know that there's something that I do, which we don't have time to talk about today, but it's called performance compensation. And in a nutshell, what I'll say is, look, Emily, if I sold your, let's say we think that we both agree that the iBuyer offer on your home is $465, right? But we think that if we can market it together, you properly prepare, we paint it and stage it and use my concierge service, we can probably break 500 together, right?
Sure.
Okay, so if we're gonna break 500, I want a bonus, is that okay?
Oh,
Yeah,
what kind of bonus?
well, we're gonna talk about that right now. Because if I get 490 for you, I also want a bonus. Okay, but if I get 510, I want a bonus as well. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it real easy for you. You tell me where you want to start on this bonus scale. You can see I want one at 490, one at 500, and one at 510. What number do you want to start at?
510.
Okay, I hear you. I know you want 510. So I'm going to tell you at 510, I want 6%. At 500, I want 5.5%, and at 490, I want 5%. Is that fair?
Oh, okay.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
That's performance compensation in a nutshell.
I like that.
Yeah. So that way you win and I win, right? You want me to work hard and bring you the best number, don't you? That's why you're going to go to the retail route and not take the iBuyer. True?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
So you clarify.
Right. I mean, I don't know about you. I do it all the time.
I like that.
It makes them feel really good, and it allows you to create a home run.
Uh-huh.
Right, and then we're all agreeing. And by the way, is 510 a stretch? It may be. Do I know if all day I can sell it for 490? I better. Don't make these numbers up if you don't think you can hit them. Otherwise, you're not going to. You got a professional baseball player over here. He's not going to get to first base without knowing how to get to first base, right? So to get the grand slam, you got to figure out how to put the grand slam into the conversation. And you can call that your grand slam pricing, by the way. And here's my home run pricing. You want to hit a double? Here's the double.
How much you charge for going?
50%. Real simple. I'll come on any appointment with you for 50%. You can learn everything I know. Yep, absolutely.
Guaranteed to close your money back.
Yeah, absolutely. Or your money back. Yeah, I'm serious too. Yeah, absolutely. So here's the deal, guys. We went through all this stuff. We hopefully brought you that 5-star value. I need extra evals, as I mentioned to you. I would love for you to go on your phones right now to kwueval.com. Don't put in Steve Chater because these are his slides. Put in Jeff Doherty. And do that right now for me, if you will, because by the time you walk out of this room, you won't. So you go to kwueval.com on your Safari or web browser, Chrome browser. And I'm just confirming that it's working. I'm not putting in my own eval, just so you know. Or maybe I am, I don't know. Yep, so the site's working. So we're a market center event. We're win with sellers. all the way down at the bottom. And then my name should be in there under the Ds. It is, look at that. And then I would have given myself 5 stars, and then you would have.
Absolutely. That's as high as you can go.
That's it.
Jeez.
Okay, guys, it's been a pleasure. I want you to know that, as you know, there's a whole process in this. The number one thing that I encourage you to do is go back and watch the video. I taped it for you. It's on Facebook. You can share it. You can review it. You can use it. There's a bunch of stuff that we covered. We went over a lot of stuff very fast. I want to walk away with some value myself. So what are you guys taking away? I want to just go one by one through the room and just tell me, what are you going to go implement? That's the gift that I get for being an instructor. What are you going to go implement? What are you going to change? Blake, can I trick on you to start? I know you're so evaluating. Hold on, who's done? Herb's done. You already perfect. So what are you going to do different? What are you going to change?
I like the idea of being able to go to maybe a past client and offer the idea of what the value is on their home.
Yeah, will you be my guinea pig?
Yeah.
I'm testing out.
I know a couple people that would love that.
Yeah, especially in your P&I group. You know, I mean,
I'm not involved.
not
in
anymore.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. You know what? Because of that, I've done more business.
There you go.
Because I made one relationship with that listing on Jordan. That was from
P&I referral?
Attorney.
Okay, that you met through P&I. Okay. So they work.
Yep.
They work. If you work on them.
It just wasn't the group. They've since expanded.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, I like the idea of differentiating yourself from everyone else.
Yeah.
And bringing and having like that domino, okay, this is what we can do this or this.
Yeah.
And the other thing here is setting expectations with the seller. So you're not telling them this is what you should do. Here are your options.
Right.
Which one do you feel is the best one for your situation?
Right. Let me go over the pros and cons of your various options.
Yes.
Because the thing is that the market will do that if you don't. Right. So it's a function of you getting in there and doing it at the level that you want to. Absolutely. Well done.
And one other thing, thank you for bringing Tony.
Sure, you bet.
Just a phenomenal job too. But educating us on the process that, personally, when I was thinking iBuyer, yeah, right. You know, because I've gotten ridiculous offers from this guy. But now, I'm curious.
Right.
I'm curious to see, and I will get in touch with you and let you know when I get that offer.
Yeah. Please do.
I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see how realistic they are.
Yeah.
But more importantly, is it's just educating us so we're not afraid.
Yeah.
But more importantly, maybe leery
Right.
of using the technology to our benefit.
Right.
And to our clients and sellers' benefit.
Good. So we broke down some fear walls for you too. I love that.
Probably
Awesome.
enough in conversations when you're having with your sellers, when we start to get offers, don't be alarmed if you get one from investors,
Right.
they're generally, a little lower than, what the market bears.
Right.
So you're also showing that you're on top of, those type of
Right.
entities that are out there that will make those offers, and your sellers aren't like having a heart attack, or why are you sending me this? You know
Right.
what I mean? So you're letting them know that does happen in the market.
Yep. I love that. Thank you so much.
But I love the bonus.
Yeah, performance compensation. Yes.
So I will say this is another tool in the armor,
Yes.
in the sense that you already have done the comparative market analysis, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And the seller will say, yeah, that's fine, but I'm not interested, I want this price.
Right.
Okay, good for you.
Right.
But let's have the realistic expectations.
Right.
Okay, so what the market has to say about it, it's not that I decide any price.
Right.
It is the market who's going to decide the price. And these are the 4 people, which I'll get you, the give me 24 hours, as you said, the short term.
Right.
And after 3 days, we will decide what we have to say.
Right.
And then they say, okay, either you pick one of them, whichever suits you, and I'll help you in that. Or let's put it on the market and test the water.
I love that, Sudesh. Thank you for that. And I will tell you that what you just helped us figure out is how to deal with the overpriced seller mindset,
Yeah.
right? The overpriced seller mindset is real
Yeah.
simple with an iBuyer strategy. So that's a really good one. Thank you so
And
much.
it is all the time that buyers think that their property is worth much more
Yeah,
than
that's
probably.
good. So,
Yep.
See, I'll just now give you an example.
Yep, absolutely.
It's that is a situation in.
Absolutely.
So the property is listed at 1.6 million
Okay,
and the no house has been sold for more than 1.3.
right,
The property is overbuilt for the area.
right.
And I went to the listing agent and said, come on, man, how you have done the comparative market? And he said,
Right.
I could do it.
Yeah.
If you can guide me. And you, guess what? His answer. Either you also know and I also know that it's an overpriced property, but I have already got 2 offers for 1.3 and 1.4.
And they wouldn't accept
And
it.
I have a buyer who is dying to get that property, but he's not willing to pay that price.
Mm.
So what do I do?
Yeah, it sounds like what you need. You're asking me specifically what you do with your buyer who's not willing to pay.
No, that's what I say. No,
Yeah,
No,
I get it.
I can't tell buyer. I said, this is what it is.
Right.
It is not for you to decide. I'm not here to set
Well,
a price.
if the buyers pay, I mean, here's the thing about buyers, because what you're really uncovering in that conversation is the buyer's motivation and the seller's motivation.
Yeah.
The only time a deal actually gets done is when buyer's motivation matches seller's motivation.
Yeah.
Then the price becomes a secondary conversation. So the point is that you were right. You know, if that buyer's motivation is lower,
No, buyer's motivation is very high.
but then
But see, that's what I told him. I say it is meeting of minds.
Yeah.
There is no price for a house. It is what the buyer is ready to pay and the seller is going
Right.
to accept.
right,
Hey,
exactly.
if you want this property, this is the price.
Right.
If you don't, let's look something else.
I got you.
But these are the situations probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. So Blake, what'd you get?
Just the value, the different value that you can bring to your clients.
Yeah.
Taking a completely different outlook on what you bring to the table, not just a market analysis, you can change the direction, of how you approach them with the iBuyers offer. And that kind of.
Yeah, I love that. And I've heard enough from you. No, I'm just kidding. What'd you get?
I'm just thinking, it's just open a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just start a trip campaign that says, be ready for cash offer on the house.
Yeah.
Send out to 1,000 people.
Yep.
See what happens.
I agree with that. I love that.
That's it.
Alan, what about you? Thank you for your review. I'll go to Ron. Go ahead.
So I think time is being shrunk in the entire process of selling homes.
Right.
And so things are moving exponentially faster. I've come from the vision of a 5-star chain of builders around for
Right.
20 years.
Yep.
And I thought, well, Amazon's not going to impact,
Right.
right? Well, I happened to leave that industry in like 2001 and it collapsed like within 2 years after that.
Right.
So if we think that we should be, we're okay, we're comfortable. Look, our real estate industry is not going to change. Area is changing, even some of those very processes, they're shrinking.
Right.
They're shrinking. Some of them are, you're like, hey, forget about those, go there.
Right.
Get the appointment, get it now. And so
Right.
there's a real new sense of urgency that I hadn't heard before. And also by bringing in these new options proactively, you know, rather than, the only time I've been bringing up iBuyer is if somebody brings it up to me and listens to it.
Right.
Normally I get the listing, but this, it tells me I gotta be proactive about it. Maybe even aggregate some of these offers and have them
Right.
and be prepared, because they already say, well, okay, you professionally prepared, but if I do this, all of a sudden it's like, this is what they're saying. These are bona fide offers on your home.
Right.
I mean, you have a much better chance, and it solidifies your professionalism rather than
Mm.
exposing them to other people that would be your competition.
Right, exactly. That's the whole point. You want to take the competition out of the conversation because you became a consultant that allowed them to see that you can provide them the iBuyer offers and you can provide them the retail path.
Right.
And then all of a sudden there's no more competition because they don't need to look anywhere else. They don't need to talk to anyone else. They don't need to go to any other websites because they see that you are the complete solution.
And that I beat Devin Doherty at every single. I'm just saying.
Right, exactly.
No,
And by the way, our next meeting together, we're gonna do a listing presentation duel,
Okay, there we
And,
go. I like that.
and we'll have some audience members.
I'm in.
Let
me know. I'll definitely do that.
That'd be fun, right?
Thank you. It's really good.
Yeah, you bet.
Kevin, thank you so very much.
Absolutely, guys. All right, we will talk soon. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys. We're gonna, you guys know where the video is, so we're all set.
Where do you get from the Facebook? Where you at?
Devin Doherty, right there. If you want to take a picture of that, it'll show you. It was live streamed straight to my wall.
Oh, just search for you.
Yep, just go on Facebook and go to facebook.com/Devin Doherty. And you will see yourself moving around on Facebook.